This is Atlas, broadcasting from Station Survival Beacon. If you're tuning in, you've made it to day 73 since the world as we knew it came crashing down. For those who might be new listeners, let me bring you up to speed. Just over 2 months ago, a massive solar flare hit Earth, frying every electrical system on the planet. In an instant, we were thrown back into the dark ages, but with 8 billion people who have no idea how to live without modern technology. I'm coming to you from a reinforced basement in what used to be downtown Chicago. The city around me is a shadow of its former self, and I've got reports indicating it's the same story in urban centers across the globe. Food shortages have triggered widespread riots. The streets that once bustled with commuters and tourists are now danger zones, with desperate people fighting over dwindling supplies. If you're still in a major city, I strongly advise you to consider leaving. Head for the countryside if you can. Rural areas are faring better, relatively speaking. Farming communities have become beacons of hope, with their knowledge of agriculture suddenly more valuable than gold. Small towns are adapting faster than big cities, forming tight-knit communities and pooling resources. But let me be clear, nowhere is untouched by this crisis. Even in the heartland, the lack of modern farming equipment and fertilizers is taking its toll. Crop yields are down, and there's genuine concern about how we'll feed everyone in the coming months. Now, I know many of you are wondering about the government and military response. The truth is, it's patchy at best. Some areas have seen National Guard units working to maintain order and distribute supplies, but they're hampered by the same lack of technology that's affecting all of us. No radios, no vehicles, no way to coordinate large-scale efforts. There have been attempts to establish centralized command centers in some state capitals, but communication between these hubs is slow and unreliable. We're largely on our own, folks. Any help that's coming is likely to be local, not federal. That's why it's crucial that we all focus on the basics of survival. Let's talk about food first. If you haven't already, you need to start thinking about sustainable food sources. Canned goods won't last forever. Learn to identify edible plants in your area. If you have space, start a garden immediately. Every little bit helps. For those of you in urban areas, look into urban farming techniques. You'd be surprised how much food you can grow on a small balcony or rooftop. And don't forget about protein sources. If you have the stomach for it, insects are a surprisingly nutritious option. I know it sounds unappetizing, but in times like these, we can't afford to be picky. Water is arguably even more critical than food. Without functioning water treatment plants, we're facing a serious risk of waterborne diseases. Always purify your water before drinking. Boiling is the most reliable method if you have the means. If not, use purification tablets or improvise a filtration system using sand, charcoal, and cloth. Remember, even if a water source looks clean, it may not be safe. Streams and rivers that were once pristine are now potentially contaminated with waste from upstream communities. Be cautious, be thorough. Now let's talk about first aid. With hospitals non-functional and medical supplies running low, even minor injuries can become life-threatening. It's essential that everyone learns basic first aid skills. Clean wounds thoroughly with boiled water if possible, or high-proof alcohol if you can find it. Keep injuries covered to prevent infection. For those managing chronic conditions, I know this is an incredibly stressful time. If you're running low on medication, start rationing now if you haven't already. Look into herbal alternatives that might help manage your symptoms. I can't stress enough how important it is to take care of your health in these conditions. Shelter and security are our next priorities. If you're on the move, be aware that many buildings in urban areas are becoming unstable without regular maintenance. Stick to single-story structures when possible. In rural areas, be cautious of wildlife that's becoming bolder as human activity decreases. Securing your shelter is crucial whether you're in a house, an apartment, or a makeshift camp. Use whatever materials you can find to reinforce doors and windows. Establish a watch rotation if you're in a group. Remember, in these times, your safety often depends on strength in numbers. I've received reports of communities forming mutual defense pacts, especially in suburban areas. This is a smart move. Work with your neighbors if you can. Share resources, share the watch duties. We're all in this together, and cooperation will be key to long-term survival. Now, I want to address something that many of you might be struggling with: the psychological toll of this crisis. The world we knew is gone, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or depressed. But we can't afford to give in to despair. Maintaining mental health is just as important as physical health in a survival situation. Try to establish routines. They provide a sense of normalcy and purpose. Set small, achievable goals each day. Celebrate the victories, no matter how minor they might seem. If you're with others, talk about your feelings. If you're alone, try keeping a journal. Processing your thoughts and emotions is crucial. Remember, every day you survive is a victory. You're adapting, you're learning, you're overcoming challenges our modern world never prepared us for. Take pride in that resilience. I've been getting questions about the possibility of restoring some form of economy. It's happening organically in many areas. Bartering systems are emerging, with skills and resources becoming the new currency. If you have practical skills like carpentry, metalworking, or medical knowledge, you're in a good position. Don't be afraid to reach out to your community and offer your expertise. For those of you who might feel like you don't have survival skills, don't sell yourself short. The ability to keep morale up, to organize people, to think creatively about solving problems, these are all incredibly valuable in our new reality. Everyone has something to contribute. We're seeing some fascinating community building initiatives pop up. In some areas, people are reviving old traditions like barn raisings, working together to build sturdy, shared structures. Others are creating communal kitchens, pooling resources to make food stretch further. These are the kinds of collaborative efforts that will see us through this crisis. One of the biggest challenges we're facing is resource distribution. Without functioning transportation networks, getting supplies from areas of abundance to areas of scarcity is incredibly difficult. This is where local leadership is becoming crucial. If you have the skills and the drive, don't be afraid to step up and help coordinate these efforts in your community. Now, let's talk about the environmental changes we're seeing. Without the constant hum of human activity, nature is reasserting itself in many areas. Wildlife is becoming more visible in urban areas, which can be both a blessing and a potential danger. Be cautious, especially at dawn and dusk when many animals are most active. We're also starting to see some shifts in weather patterns. It's hard to say if this is directly related to the sudden cessation of human industrial activity or just normal variability, but many areas are reporting more extreme weather events. Prepare for this. If you're in a flood-prone area, consider moving to higher ground. If you're in a region prone to wildfires, create defensible space around your shelter. Long-term, we may be looking at significant climate implications. Without modern agriculture and transportation, food production and distribution will continue to be major challenges. Start thinking now about how your community can adapt to potential changes in growing seasons or water availability. This brings me to an important point. We need to start preparing for natural disasters. Without modern early warning systems and rapid response teams, events like hurricanes, earthquakes, or severe storms could be even more devastating than before. If you're in an area prone to these events, start making preparations now. Have an evacuation plan. Stock up on supplies if you can. Know the safest locations to shelter. Adapting to a world without climate control is another challenge many are facing. Those of you in extreme climates, whether hot or cold, will need to get creative. Look to how people in your region lived before the advent of air conditioning or central heating. Use natural ventilation. Learn to insulate your shelter with available materials. Your survival may depend on your ability to regulate your environment using pre-industrial methods. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to remind all of you that despite the enormous challenges we face, human ingenuity and resilience are powerful forces. We've faced catastrophes before as a species, and we've always found a way to adapt and overcome. This situation is unprecedented in its scale, but the fundamental strengths that have seen us through past crises are still with us. In our next segment, we'll be diving deeper into health and sanitation issues in our post-technology world. With modern medicine largely unavailable, preventing illness has never been more important. We'll discuss common health threats in our new reality and how to combat them using the resources available to us. Stay tuned, stay safe, and remember, as long as we're still here, still fighting, there's hope. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, day 73 of the global blackout. In our last segment, we covered the overall situation and touched on some basic survival strategies. Now, let's delve deeper into the critical topics of health and sanitation in our post-technology world. With modern medical facilities no longer operational and supplies dwindling, preventing illness has become more crucial than ever. The diseases we once considered minor inconveniences can now be life-threatening. Let's start with the basics: personal hygiene. I cannot stress enough the importance of hand washing. I know clean water is precious, but using a small amount to keep your hands clean can prevent a multitude of illnesses. If soap is scarce, ash from your fires can be an effective alternative. Rub it thoroughly between your hands and rinse well. Dental hygiene is another area we can't neglect. Without access to dentists, a tooth infection could become a serious, even fatal problem. If you've run out of toothpaste, you can use a mixture of baking soda and water. Chewing on fibrous plants or using twig brushes like our ancestors did can also help keep your teeth clean. Now, let's talk about waste management. Without functioning sewage systems, this has become a major issue in many areas. If you're in a position to do so, dig a latrine well away from any water sources. Make it at least 4 feet deep. Cover your waste with soil after each use. If you're in an urban area without access to open ground, designate a specific area for waste, perhaps a particular room or corner. Use ash or lime if you have it to reduce odor and deter insects. Speaking of insects, they've become more than just a nuisance. Mosquitoes, flies, and other pests can spread diseases rapidly in our current conditions. If you can sleep under netting, keep your living area as clean as possible to avoid attracting pests. Smoke from your fires can help repel insects, but be cautious about using it in enclosed spaces. Waterborne illnesses are one of our biggest threats right now. I mentioned water purification in our last segment, but it bears repeating. Boil your water if you can. If fuel is scarce, leaving water in clear bottles in direct sunlight for at least 6 hours can help purify it. This method works best with clear water and on sunny days. Now, let's address some of the common illnesses we're seeing in this post-collapse world. Gastrointestinal issues are widespread due to contaminated water and food. The key here is to prevent dehydration. If you or someone you know is experiencing severe diarrhea, it's crucial to replace fluids and electrolytes. A simple solution of salt, sugar, and clean water can be a lifesaver. The ratio is 1 teaspoon of salt, 8 teaspoons of sugar, to 1 liter of clean water. Respiratory infections are another major concern, especially with many people living in close quarters. If someone in your group is sick, try to give them a separate sleeping area if possible. Everyone should cover their mouth when coughing or sneezing, preferably with a cloth that can be boiled clean afterward. Skin infections are becoming increasingly common due to lack of clean water for bathing and treating wounds. Keep any cuts or scrapes clean and covered. If you have access to honey, it can be an effective natural antibiotic when applied to wounds. For those managing chronic conditions like diabetes or heart disease, I know these times are especially challenging. If you're running low on medication, strict dietary control becomes even more important. For diabetics, avoid sugary foods and stick to complex carbohydrates if possible. For those with heart conditions, reduce salt intake and stay as physically active as safely possible. Mental health is another crucial aspect we can't ignore. The stress of our situation can lead to anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. Establish routines to give your days structure. Find ways to stay mentally active. Read books if you have them. Tell stories. Solve puzzles. Physical activity, even if it's just stretching or walking, can significantly improve your mood. Now, let's talk about natural remedies that might help in the absence of modern medicine. Remember, these are not replacements for professional medical care, but they may provide some relief when other options aren't available. Ginger can be effective for nausea and digestive issues. If you can find it or grow it, chew on a small piece, or make a tea from it. Peppermint also has digestive benefits and can help with headaches. For pain relief, willow bark contains a compound similar to aspirin. Make a tea by steeping the bark in hot water. Be cautious, though, as it can have side effects similar to aspirin. Garlic, if you can find it, has natural antibiotic properties. Eating it raw is most effective, but I know that's not pleasant for everyone. Crushing it and mixing it with honey can make it more palatable. For coughs and sore throats, honey is again a useful remedy. Mix it with warm water or herbal tea. If you have access to thyme, it can also help with respiratory issues when made into a tea. Aloe vera, if it grows in your area, can be incredibly useful for burns and skin irritations. Split the leaf and apply the gel directly to the affected area. Remember, knowledge is one of our most valuable resources now. If you have access to books on herbal medicine or wilderness survival, study them. Share what you learn with others. The more we can spread this kind of practical knowledge, the better our chances of long-term survival. Let's move on to the topic of shelter and security. In our new reality, your shelter isn't just a place to sleep, it's your fortress, your hospital, your safe haven. Whether you're in a house, an apartment, or a makeshift shelter, there are steps you can take to make it more secure and comfortable. First, assess your shelter for vulnerabilities. Are there multiple entry points? Can windows be easily breached? Work on reinforcing these areas. Use furniture to barricade doors if necessary. If you're in an urban area, consider creating a safe room where you can retreat if your main living area is compromised. Insulation is crucial, both for temperature control and soundproofing. Use whatever materials you can find: blankets, newspapers, cardboard. In colder climates, focus on trapping heat. In warmer areas, think about how to create airflow to keep temperatures manageable. Security goes beyond just fortifying your shelter. Establish a watch system if you're with a group. Have designated observation points and agreed upon signals for different types of threats. If you're alone, set up simple alarm systems using cans or other noisemakers on strings. Be cautious about light and noise that might attract unwanted attention. Use thick curtains or blankets to block light from windows at night. If you need to use fire for warmth or cooking, make sure the smoke isn't visible from a distance. Now, let's talk about some basic survival skills that everyone should be working on. Fire starting is at the top of this list. Practice making fires using various methods: friction, magnifying glass, flint, and steel if you have it. Even if you have matches or lighters now, those won't last forever. Learn to identify edible plants in your area. Start with just a few common ones and gradually expand your knowledge. Always be absolutely certain before eating any wild plant. When in doubt, don't eat it. The risk isn't worth it. Basic tool making is another valuable skill. Learn to fashion simple tools from materials around you. A sturdy stick can become a digging tool or a weapon for self-defense. Sharp rocks can be used as cutting tools. Vines or plant fibers can be woven into cordage. If you're near water, fishing is a valuable skill to develop. You don't need modern equipment to catch fish. Simple gorge hooks can be made from small twigs, and nets can be woven from plant fibers. For those in urban environments, scavenging safely is a crucial skill. Always be aware of structural instability in abandoned buildings. Watch for signs of other people the crisis has made some desperate and dangerous. Move quietly and always have an escape route planned. Regardless of your environment, learning to move stealthily is important. Practice walking quietly, being aware of your surroundings. In our current situation, the ability to avoid confrontation is often more valuable than the ability to win one. Lastly, I want to touch on the importance of community. No one can survive this crisis alone, at least not for long. If you haven't already, start reaching out to those around you. Pool resources, share skills, watch out for each other. Organize your community. Establish clear roles based on people's skills and abilities. Someone with medical knowledge, even basic first aid, is invaluable. Those with experience in construction or engineering can help fortify and improve shelters. People with agricultural knowledge are crucial for establishing sustainable food sources. Create systems for fair distribution of resources. This will help prevent conflicts within your group. Set up clear rules and consequences. In the absence of formal law enforcement, community agreed upon standards of behavior are essential. Don't forget the importance of morale. Find ways to maintain a sense of normalcy and even joy in these difficult times. Organize group activities, share stories, create art if you can. These things might seem trivial in the face of our challenges, but they're vital for long-term psychological survival. As we come to the end of this segment, I want to remind all of you that every day we survive is a victory. Every skill we learn, every challenge we overcome, makes us stronger and more prepared for whatever comes next. In our next segment, we'll be discussing the emerging new economy and how communities are adapting to life without modern technology. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Beacon. This is Atlas, signing off for now. Welcome back, survivors. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast from Station Survival Beacon on the 73rd day since the world went dark. In our previous segments, we covered the basics of survival and health in our new reality. Now, let's turn our attention to the emerging economic landscape and how communities are adapting to life without modern technology. The concept of money as we knew it has largely become obsolete. In its place, we're seeing the rise of barter systems and skill-based economies. Your value in this new world is directly tied to what you can do and what you can produce. If you've been feeling useless because your old job doesn't apply anymore, it's time to reassess your skills. Let's start with the most obvious valuable skills. Anything related to food production. If you can grow crops, raise livestock, or even identify and gather wild edibles, you're in a good position. These skills are quite literally keeping people alive. But don't think you need to be a master farmer to contribute. Even small-scale gardening or basic animal husbandry can make a significant difference in a community's food security. Next on the list of valuable skills are those related to shelter and security. Carpenters, architects, and engineers are finding their expertise in high demand. The ability to construct or reinforce shelters, design simple machines, or improvise tools from available materials is incredibly valuable. If you have experience in construction or DIY projects, now's the time to put those skills to use. Medical knowledge, even basic first aid, has become extremely valuable. With modern healthcare systems non-functional, those with any level of medical training are vital to community survival. If you have experience in healthcare, from doctors and nurses to EMTs and even veterinarians, your skills are desperately needed. For those without formal training, now is the time to learn. Study any medical texts you can find, learn about herbal remedies, and practice basic first aid techniques. Don't underestimate the value of what might seem like soft skills. Teachers, counselors, and anyone with experience in conflict resolution are crucial for maintaining community cohesion. The ability to organize people, mediate disputes, and keep morale high is just as important for long-term survival as more practical skills. Craftspeople of all kinds are finding new appreciation in this post-technology world. Blacksmiths, weavers, potters, these skills that seemed outdated just months ago are now essential. If you have experience in any kind of handicraft, you have a valuable contribution to make. And if you don't, consider learning. These skills will only become more important as our salvaged modern goods wear out. Now, let's talk about how communities are organizing these new economies. Many areas are establishing regular markets or trading posts where people can exchange goods and services. These aren't just economic hubs, they're becoming the new centers of community life, places to share information and maintain social bonds. Some communities are experimenting with token systems, using simple, locally produced items as a form of currency. This helps facilitate trade when direct barter isn't possible. We've heard of communities using everything from handmade beads to standardized bundles of firewood as tokens of exchange. It's crucial to approach these new economic systems with a spirit of fairness and community-mindedness. In many places, councils or committees have been established to oversee resource distribution and mediate economic disputes. If your community hasn't set up something like this yet, consider proposing it. Having agreed-upon systems in place can prevent conflict and ensure that everyone's basic needs are met. Remember, in this new world, hoarding resources is not just selfish, it's dangerous for the entire community. The The more we can work together and share our skills and resources, the better our chances of long-term survival. Now, let's address some of the challenges communities are facing in establishing these new economies. One major issue is the uneven distribution of skills and resources. Some areas might have an abundance of food producers but lack people with medical or technical skills. Others might have skilled craftspeople but struggle with food production. This is where intercommunity trade becomes crucial. If you're in a position of leadership in your community, start thinking about how you can establish trade relations with neighboring groups. This isn't just about exchanging goods, it's about sharing knowledge and skills too. We're hearing reports of communities organizing traveling skill-sharing workshops. Experts in various fields are moving between communities, teaching essential skills and helping to set up sustainable systems. If you have expertise that could benefit others, consider how you might be able to share it more widely. Another challenge is the need to repurpose and recycle almost everything. With production of new goods at a standstill, we need to get creative with what we have. Every piece of scrap metal, every bit of fabric, every shard of glass has potential value. We're seeing the emergence of specialized scavengers and recyclers who are adept at finding and repurposing materials. This brings me to an important point: the value of information. In our current situation, practical knowledge is one of our most precious resources. If you have books on topics like agriculture, medicine, engineering, or survival skills, these are incredibly valuable. Consider establishing community libraries or knowledge-sharing centers where this information can be centralized and made available to everyone. Let's talk about some of the innovative solutions we're seeing communities implement. In urban areas, rooftop and vertical gardening are becoming common, maximizing limited space for food production. Some communities are reviving old techniques like aquaponics, combining fish farming with vegetable growing in closed systems. Energy production is another area where innovation is crucial. Without the power grid, communities are turning to alternative energy sources. Solar panels, where available, are invaluable. But we're also seeing creative use of water power, with communities setting up small-scale hydroelectric systems in streams and rivers. Wind power is being harnessed using improvised turbines. And in some areas, biogas digesters are being constructed to produce fuel from organic waste. One particularly interesting development is the emergence of new forms of entertainment and culture. It might seem trivial given our survival challenges, but maintaining morale and social bonds is crucial for long-term survival. We're hearing about communities organizing regular storytelling nights, reviving old folktales and creating new ones that reflect our current reality. Musicians are in high demand, with live music becoming a precious form of entertainment. Some groups are even putting on plays or other performances using salvaged materials for props and costumes. This cultural resurgence is more than just entertainment, it's a way of processing our collective trauma and forging new identities in this changed world. If you have artistic skills, don't underestimate their value. The ability to bring moments of joy and reflection to your community is incredibly important. Now, let's address a sensitive but crucial topic: security in this new economy. With traditional law enforcement non-existent in most areas, communities have had to develop their own systems for maintaining order and protecting resources. Many have established volunteer security forces or community watches. If your group hasn't done this yet, it's something to consider. But remember, the goal should be protection and conflict resolution, not intimidation or authoritarian control. We're also seeing the emergence of specialized security services. Individuals or groups with military or law enforcement backgrounds are offering their skills to help communities establish and maintain secure perimeters. If you have this kind of background, your expertise is invaluable, but use it wisely and ethically. Our goal should be to protect and preserve life, not to dominate others. One of the most heartening developments we're seeing is the way communities are coming together to support their most vulnerable members. In many areas, systems have been set up to ensure that the elderly, the ill, and children are cared for and have access to necessary resources. This kind of community-minded thinking is what will see us through this crisis. Let's talk about the importance of record-keeping in our new economy. Without computers or even reliable paper supplies in many areas, keeping track of trades, debts, and community decisions can be challenging. Some groups are using simple tally systems carved into wood or stone. Others are designating official record keepers who use whatever writing materials are available to maintain community records. However you do it, having some system of record keeping can help prevent disputes and ensure fair treatment for everyone. As we look to the future, it's clear that our economic systems will need to continue evolving. We need to be thinking not just about day-to-day survival, but about how we can rebuild and create sustainable long-term systems. This might mean relearning old techniques, like crop rotation for sustainable agriculture, or finding new ways to repurpose the remnants of our old technology. Education is going to play a crucial role in this long-term adaptation. Communities need to be thinking about how to pass on crucial skills and knowledge to younger generations. We're hearing about groups setting up informal schools, focusing on practical skills alongside basic academics. If you have teaching experience, this vital task, remember, every skill you learn, every innovative solution you come up with, every positive contribution you make to your community is helping to shape the future. We're not just surviving, we're laying the groundwork for a new society. As we wrap up this segment on our new economy, I want to leave you with a message of hope. Yes, we've lost a lot. The world we knew is gone, but human ingenuity and the capacity for cooperation are powerful forces. Every day, we're hearing stories of communities coming together, overcoming challenges, and building something new from the ashes of the old world. In our next segment, we'll be discussing environmental changes and how to adapt to them in our post-technology world. We'll cover everything from shifts in local ecosystems to large-scale climate implications. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, and keep working together. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered survival basics, health concerns, and the emerging new economy. Now, let's turn our attention to the environmental changes we're observing and how to adapt to them in our post-technology world. The sudden cessation of most human industrial activity has led to some dramatic and rapid changes in our local environments. Many of you have probably noticed an increase in wildlife activity, even in urban areas. Animals are becoming bolder, venturing into spaces they previously avoided due to human presence. While this can be fascinating to observe, it also presents new challenges and potential dangers. In urban and suburban areas, we're seeing a rise in encounters with animals like coyotes, foxes, and in some regions, even larger predators like bears. It's crucial to be aware of your surroundings, especially at dawn and dusk when many animals are most active. Secure your food stores carefully to avoid attracting wildlife. If you are in an area with large predators, consider traveling in groups and making noise to avoid surprising animals. On the positive side, many areas are reporting cleaner air and water. Without the constant pollution from vehicles and factories, natural systems are beginning to recover. Rivers and streams that were once polluted are showing signs of life returning. This is good news for those relying on local water sources and fish for survival. However, we're also seeing some concerning trends. Without regular maintenance, many industrial sites are becoming environmental hazards. If you're near former industrial areas, be cautious of potential chemical leaks or other dangers. Avoid foraging or hunting in these areas if possible, as toxins may have contaminated the local flora and fauna. Climate patterns are another area of significant change. Without the global transportation system and widespread use of air conditioning and heating, we're experiencing weather more directly than we have in generations. Many areas are reporting more extreme temperature swings and changing precipitation patterns. For those in coastal areas, be aware that sea levels may continue to rise. If you're in a low-lying coastal zone, start considering options for relocating to higher ground. This isn't an immediate threat in most areas, but it's something to keep in mind for long-term planning. In regions prone to natural disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, or wildfires, the lack of modern early warning systems and emergency response teams makes preparation even more critical. If you're in one of these areas, take time now to develop emergency plans. Know your evacuation routes, have a go bag ready, and establish meeting points with your community in case you need to evacuate quickly. Now, let's talk about adapting to these environmental changes. One of the most crucial skills in our new world is the ability to read and understand natural signs. Learn to predict weather by observing cloud patterns, wind direction, and animal behavior. This knowledge can be crucial for everything from planning your daily activities to preparing for severe weather. For those engaged in agriculture, you'll need to adapt your growing practices to changing climate patterns. Pay close attention to when plants are sprouting, flowering, and fruiting. These natural cycles can give you valuable information about how your local climate is shifting. Consider experimenting with different crop varieties that might be better suited to your new conditions. Water management is becoming increasingly important in many areas. If you're in a region experiencing increased rainfall, learn techniques for harvesting and storing rainwater. For those in drier areas, focus on water conservation methods. Mulching, companion planting, and building swales can help retain moisture in your soil. The changing environment also means we need to be vigilant about new health risks. Insect-borne diseases may become more prevalent in some areas as insect populations shift. Keep an eye out for unusual insect activity and take precautions to protect yourself. Use natural insect repellents if possible, and consider wearing protective clothing, especially during dawn and dusk hours when many insects are most active. On the topic of insects, many of you have probably noticed changes in pollinator populations. Bees, butterflies, and other pollinators are crucial for agriculture and wild plant populations. If you're noticing a decline in pollinators in your area, consider planting native flowering plants to support these important insects. Let's talk about foraging, which has become a crucial survival skill for many. As environments change, so do the plants available for foraging. Be extremely cautious when foraging. Make absolutely sure you can identify a plant before consuming it. Remember, many edible plants have toxic lookalikes. If you're unsure, it's always better to err on the side of caution. For those near coastal areas, be aware that changing ocean temperatures and currents may affect fish populations. If you're relying on fishing for food, you might need to adapt your techniques or target different species than you're used to. Always be cautious of harmful algal blooms, which can make shellfish dangerous to eat. Now, let's address the issue of waste management in our changing environment. Without modern sanitation systems, managing waste has become a critical issue for many communities. Improper waste disposal can lead to serious environmental and health problems. If possible, establish community composting systems for organic waste. This not only reduces the amount of waste you need to dispose of, but also produces valuable fertilizer for agriculture. For non-organic waste, we need to shift our mindset. In our new reality, there is no such thing as trash. Every item has potential value. Establish systems for sorting and storing items that might be useful for future projects. Metal, glass, and certain types of plastic can all be repurposed with a bit of creativity. Let's talk about energy in this changing environment. Without the power grid, many of you have turned to alternative energy sources. Solar panels, where available, are incredibly valuable. But even without modern solar technology, we can harness the sun's energy. Simple solar ovens can be constructed from salvaged materials, allowing you to cook food and sterilize water without using precious fuel. Wind energy is another option worth exploring. Even small, homemade wind turbines can generate enough power to charge batteries or run small devices. If you're near a flowing water source, microhydro systems can provide a consistent source of power. For those in colder climates, the changing environment presents unique challenges. Without modern heating systems, staying warm has become a matter of survival. Look to traditional techniques used by indigenous peoples in your region. Technologies like earth burning, where you use soil to insulate structures, can be incredibly effective. And don't underestimate the value of simple solutions like thermal mass walls, which absorb heat during the day and release it at night. In warmer climates, cooling has become a major concern. Again, we can learn from traditional building techniques. Features like courtyards, wind catchers, and strategic shading can help keep living spaces cool without modern air conditioning. Consider reorganizing your living spaces to take advantage of natural airflow and cooler underground areas. As environments change, we're also seeing shifts in plant and animal diseases. Those of you raising livestock or relying on hunting need to be vigilant for signs of illness in animals. Establish quarantine procedures for sick animals to prevent the spread of disease. And be cautious about consuming meat from animals that show any signs of illness. For plant diseases, practicing crop rotation and maintaining biodiversity in your plantings can help prevent the spread of pathogens. Learn to identify common plant diseases in your area and have plans in place for isolating and dealing with infected plants. Now, let's talk about the psychological impact of these environmental changes. Many of you are likely feeling a profound sense of loss as you watch familiar landscapes change. It's important to acknowledge these feelings. The world is changing, and it's okay to grieve for what we've lost, but try to balance this with an appreciation for the resilience of nature. Take time to observe and connect with the natural world around you. This can be not only emotionally healing, but also practically useful as you learn to read the signs of your changing environment. For those of you in urban environments, the environmental changes might seem less dramatic, but they're no less important. The urban heat island effect, where cities are significant, may become more pronounced without air conditioning and with reduced traffic. Look for ways to increase green spaces in your urban environment. Rooftop gardens, vertical gardens on walls, and converting empty lots into community gardens can all help mitigate urban heat and provide valuable food resources. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to emphasize the importance of sharing environmental observations with your community and beyond. If you notice unusual weather patterns, changes in plant or animal behavior, or any other significant environmental shifts, document them if possible and share the information. This collective knowledge can help us all better understand and adapt to our changing world. Remember, while these environmental changes present significant challenges, they also offer opportunities. We have the chance to rebuild our relationship with the natural world, to create systems that work in harmony with nature rather than against it. Every challenge we overcome, every adaptation we make, is a step towards a more resilient future. In our next segment, we'll be discussing security and threat assessment in our post-technology world. We'll cover everything from personal safety to community defense strategies. Until then, stay observant, stay adaptable, and above all, stay safe. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your lifeline in these challenging times. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered survival basics, health concerns, the emerging new economy, and environmental changes. Now, we turn our attention to a critical topic: security and threat assessment in our post-technology world. The breakdown of traditional law enforcement and security systems has created a complex and often dangerous landscape. Understanding and mitigating these risks is crucial for both individual and community survival. Let's start by discussing personal safety. First and foremost, awareness is your best defense. In our current situation, letting your guard down can be fatal. Develop a habit of constantly assessing your surroundings. Be aware of potential escape routes whenever you enter a new area. Pay attention to the behavior of people around you. Unusual stillness, excessive nervousness, or overly friendly behavior from strangers could all be warning signs. When moving through potentially dangerous areas, especially in urban environments, use the gray man concept. This means blending in, not drawing attention to yourself. Avoid wearing bright colors or anything that might make you stand out. Move with purpose, but don't rush. Look alert, but not paranoid. If you must travel, especially over long distances, do so in groups whenever possible. There's safety in numbers. Establish clear communication signals within your group. These could be hand signals or code words that allow you to alert each other to potential threats without alerting others. Now, let's talk about securing your shelter. Whether you're in a house, an apartment, or a makeshift camp, your shelter is your last line of defense. Start by assessing all possible entry points. Reinforce doors and windows if possible. Use furniture to create obstacles that would slow down intruders. Create a safe room within your shelter if possible. This should be a space that's easily defensible and stocked with essential supplies. In a worst-case scenario, this room could buy you valuable time. Develop routines for securing your shelter. Always have someone on watch, especially at night. Establish clear protocols for what to do if a threat is detected. Everyone in your group should know their role in an emergency. Let's move on to community security. In many areas, communities have formed their own security forces or neighborhood watches. If your community hasn't done this yet, consider proposing it. A well-organized community defense can be a powerful deterrent to potential threats. When setting up community security, it's crucial to establish clear rules of engagement. What level of force is acceptable? Under what circumstances? These are difficult questions, but they need to be addressed before a crisis occurs. Consider setting up a perimeter around your community if possible. This could be as simple as strategically placed lookout points or as complex as physical barriers. The goal is to create a buffer zone that gives you advance warning of potential threats. Develop a system for identifying friend from foe. This could be as simple as a password system or as complex as ID badges. Whatever system you choose, make sure everyone in the community understands and follows it. Now, let's talk about threat assessment. In our current world, threats can come from many directions. Let's break them down into categories. First, we have environmental threats. These include severe weather events, which have become more unpredictable in the wake of the blackout. Establish early warning systems based on natural signs. Designate storm shelters and make sure everyone knows where they are and when to use them. Next, we have human threats. These can range from desperate individuals to organized groups. Be particularly wary of large groups moving through your area. They may be simply passing through, or they may have more malicious intent. Watch for signs of scouting or surveillance of your community. This could indicate that someone is planning an attack. Unusual questions from strangers about your resources or defenses should be treated with suspicion. Be alert for signs of infiltration. If your community accepts new members, have a thorough vetting process. Watch for inconsistencies in stories or behavior that doesn't match claimed backgrounds. Animal threats have become a significant concern in many areas as wildlife adapts to the lack of human activity. Be particularly cautious at dawn and dusk when many predators are most active. If you're in an area with large predators, consider carrying noisemakers or other non-lethal deterrents. Now, let's discuss weapons. In our current reality, having the means to defend yourself has become a necessity for many. If you choose to arm yourself, proper training is crucial. A weapon you don't know how to use properly is more of a liability than an asset. For those without firearms or similar weapons, don't underestimate the value of improvised weapons. A sturdy walking stick can be an effective defensive tool. Slingshots, when used skillfully, can be surprisingly effective for hunting small game and self-defense. Remember, in any confrontation, your primary goal should be to disengage and escape. Fighting should always be a last resort. Even if you win a fight, injuries in our current medical situation can be life-threatening. Let's talk about information security. In our post-technology world, information has become one of our most valuable resources. Be cautious about what information you share, even with people you think you can trust. Details about your resources, defenses, or community vulnerabilities should be closely guarded. Develop a system for verifying information before acting on it or spreading it further. Misinformation, whether accidental or deliberate, can be dangerous. Cross-check reports with multiple sources if possible. Now, let's address the psychological aspects of security. Constant vigilance can be mentally and emotionally exhausting. It's important to find ways to decompress and maintain mental health. Establish safe times in secure areas where people can relax their guard a bit. This is crucial for long-term resilience. Be aware of the signs of paranoia in yourself and others. While caution is necessary, excessive fear can lead to poor decision-making. If someone in your group is showing signs of extreme paranoia, find ways to support them and perhaps temporarily relieve them of security duties. Let's talk about resource security. Your food, water, and medical supplies are literal lifelines. Develop systems for securing and monitoring these resources. Consider dispersing your supplies rather than keeping them all in one location. This way, if one cache is compromised, you don't lose everything. If you're growing food, consider camouflaging your gardens, especially if they're visible from a distance. The same goes for water sources. A visible well or water collection system could attract unwanted attention. Now, let's discuss the importance of intelligence gathering. Knowing what's happening in the areas around you can give you a crucial advantage. If possible, establish a network of scouts or information sharing with nearby communities. Regular patrols of your surrounding area can help you detect potential threats early. Consider setting up an observation post if you have high ground available. This can give you a broader view of your area and more advanced warning of approaching threats. Let's talk about evacuation plans. No matter how well prepared you are, there may come a time when leaving your current location is the best option. Have clear evacuation routes planned out. Everyone in your group should know these routes and have a designated meeting point in case you get separated. Prepare bug-out bags for every member of your group. These should contain essential supplies to keep you alive for at least 72 hours. Keep these bags easily accessible so you can grab them quickly if needed. Now, let's address a difficult topic: internal threats. In high-stress situations, conflicts within groups can escalate quickly. Establish clear conflict resolution procedures. Have designated mediators who can step in to defuse tense situations before they turn violent. Be alert for signs of substance abuse within your group. Alcohol or drug problems can compromise everyone's safety. Have plans in place for how to handle these situations: operational security or OPSEC. This military concept is about denying potential adversaries information about your capabilities and intentions. In practical terms, this means being mindful of patterns in your behavior that others might observe. Vary your routines. If you always check your traps or patrol at the same time every day, you become predictable. This predictability can be exploited by potential threats. Mix up your schedules and routes regularly. Be cautious about leaving signs of your presence when you're away from your base. Something as simple as footprints or discarded food packaging can tell others a lot about your numbers and movements. Now, let's discuss the importance of training and drills. It's not enough to have plans. You need to practice them regularly. Run evacuation drills. Practice your firefighting procedures. The more you drill, the more automatic your responses will be in a real crisis. Consider running red team exercises where part of your group plays the role of hostile forces trying to breach your defenses. This can help you identify weaknesses in your security setup. Let's talk about the ethical considerations of security in our new world. It's a sad reality that we may face situations where we have to make difficult decisions about using force or denying aid to others for the safety of our own group. These are heavy moral questions that each community will have to grapple with. My advice is to discuss these scenarios before they happen. Establish guidelines that align with your community's values. Having these discussions in advance can help prevent paralysis or regrettable decisions in the heat of the moment. As we wrap up this segment on security and threat assessment, I want to emphasize that while caution and preparedness are crucial, we mustn't lose our humanity. The goal of all these security measures is to protect life and create safe spaces where we can rebuild and thrive. In our next segment, we'll be discussing food production and agriculture in our post-technology world. We'll cover everything from small-scale gardening to larger agricultural projects. Until then, stay vigilant, stay prepared, and above all, stay human. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your partner in navigating these challenging times. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered survival basics, health concerns, the emerging new economy, environmental changes, and security. Now, we turn our attention to a topic that's crucial for our long-term survival: food production and agriculture in our post-technology world. The collapse of modern agricultural systems and supply chains has forced us to radically rethink how we produce. Fruit and nut trees require an initial investment of time and effort, but can provide food for years with minimal maintenance once established. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges you might face in food production. Soil quality is a common issue, especially in urban areas or places with a history of intensive agriculture. If you're dealing with poor soil, focus on building it up with compost and cover crops. It's a slow process, but it pays off in the long run. Unpredictable weather is another major challenge. We're seeing more extreme weather events, which can devastate crops. Diversifying your crops can help mitigate this risk. If one crop fails, others may survive. Also, consider season extension techniques like cold frames or hoop houses to protect crops from unexpected frosts or heat waves. Water scarcity is a growing problem in many areas. If you're in a dry region, focus on drought-tolerant crops and water-conserving techniques. Allah's unglazed clay pots buried in the soil can provide efficient, targeted irrigation. Pest pressure can be intense, especially as local ecosystems adjust to the lack of human activity. Encouraging beneficial insects by planting flowers and herbs can help keep pest populations in check. Neem oil, when available, is an effective organic pesticide for many common garden pests. Let's talk about the importance of community in food production. Pooling resources and labor can greatly increase your chances of success. Consider establishing community gardens or cooperative farming projects. These not only increase food security but also help build stronger community bonds. Skill sharing is crucial. If you have agricultural knowledge, share it with others. If you're new to farming, don't be afraid to ask for help. Many communities are setting up informal agricultural education programs. Participate in these if you can, either as a student or a teacher. As we wrap up this segment on food production and agriculture, remember that growing food is as much an art as it is a science. Don't be discouraged by failures. They're inevitable, especially as we adapt to new ways of farming. Learn from your mistakes, keep good records, and above all, don't give up. In our next segment, we'll be discussing communication and information sharing in our post-technology world. We'll cover everything from local messenger networks to long-distance communication methods. Until then, keep tending those gardens, care for your animals, and remember that every seed you plant is an act of hope for the future. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your partner in cultivating a new world. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered survival basics, health concerns, the emerging new economy, environmental changes, security, and food production. Now, we turn our attention to a critical aspect of our post-technology world: communication and information sharing. In the absence of phones, internet, and other modern communication technologies, we've had to revert to more basic methods of staying connected. Yet, the need for accurate and timely information has never been more crucial. Let's explore the various ways communities are adapting to this challenge. First, let's talk about local communication. Many communities have established central message boards or town criers to disseminate important information. If your group hasn't done this yet, consider setting up a designated area where news and announcements can be posted. This could be a physical board in a central location or a system of regular community meetings. For slightly longer distance communication, many areas have revived the old tradition of signal fires or smoke signals. While this method is limited in the complexity of messages it can convey, it can be useful for prearranged signals like warnings of approaching threats or calls for assistance. Bicycle messengers have become invaluable in many regions. If you have bicycles and people willing to act as couriers, this can be an effective way to maintain communication between nearby communities. Establish regular routes and schedules if possible, but be sure to vary them occasionally for security reasons. For those with the resources and know-how, simple radio systems can be incredibly useful. Crystal radio sets, which don't require external power, can be used to receive broadcasts like this one. If you have the components, consider building one. More complex amateur radio setups, if you can power them, can allow for two-way communication over long distances. Now, let's discuss the importance of creating and maintaining communication networks. Think of this as rebuilding a nervous system for our society. Start by establishing regular contact with neighboring communities. Set up a schedule for information exchange, whether it's through messengers, signal systems, or in-person meetings. Consider creating a hub-and-spoke system, where centrally located communities act as information hubs, collecting and distributing news to and from outlying areas. This can help ensure that vital information reaches even isolated groups. Let's talk about the content of our communications. In our current situation, certain types of information are particularly valuable. Weather reports, for instance, can be crucial for agricultural planning and disaster preparedness. If you have anyone with meteorological knowledge in your community, task them with making and sharing regular weather observations. Health alerts are another critical category. If you notice signs of disease outbreak or other health concerns, it's vital to spread this information quickly to surrounding areas. Establish clear protocols for what constitutes a health alert and how it should be communicated. Resource availability is another key topic. If your community has surpluses of certain goods or is in need of specific items, make sure this information is shared. This can facilitate trade and mutual aid between groups. Now, let's address the challenge of long-distance communication. While it's much more difficult without modern technology, it's not impossible. Some communities have resurrected old methods like heliographs mirrors used to flash sun signals over long distances. While limited, this can be an effective way to maintain contact with distant allies. For truly long-distance communication, consider establishing a relay system. This involves passing messages from one community to the next, creating a chain that can span vast distances. It's slow, but it can allow information to travel much farther than any single messenger could manage. Let's talk about the importance of creating standardized communication protocols. When information is passing through multiple hands, it's crucial to have systems in place to ensure accuracy. Consider developing a simple code system for common messages. This not only helps prevent misunderstandings, but can also add a layer of security to your communications. On the topic of security, it's important to be mindful of the information you're sharing. In our current world, knowledge about resources, defenses, or vulnerabilities can be dangerous in the wrong hands. Develop systems for verifying the identity of messengers and the authenticity of messages. Now, let's discuss record keeping. Without digital storage, preserving information has become a challenge. Yet, maintaining records is crucial for everything from tracking agricultural cycles to preserving medical knowledge. Designate scribes or record keepers in your community. Use durable materials for important records. Carve them in wood or stone if you have to. Consider creating multiple copies of crucial information and storing them in different locations. This redundancy can help ensure that vital knowledge isn't lost if one location is compromised. Let's talk about education and skill sharing in the context of communication. It's important to pass on communication skills, especially to younger members of your community. Teach people how to effectively convey messages, how to use whatever communication tools you have available, and the importance of information security. For those of you with specialized knowledge, whether it's in medicine, engineering, agriculture, or any other field, consider how you can share this information more widely. In our current world, knowledge truly is power, and spreading it can help all of us survive and rebuild. Now, let's address the challenge of combating misinformation. Without easy access to fact-checking resources, false rumors can spread quickly and cause panic. Establish systems for verifying information before acting on it or passing it along. Cross-check reports with multiple sources when possible. Encourage critical thinking in your community. Teach people to question the source of information and to consider potential motives behind messages. This isn't about breeding paranoia, but about developing healthy skepticism and analytical skills. Let's discuss the role of storytelling and oral tradition in our new reality. As we work to rebuild and redefine our world, sharing our experiences and preserving our history is crucial. Consider establishing regular storytelling sessions in your community. This isn't just about entertainment. It's a way to pass on important lessons, preserve culture, and maintain a sense of continuity in these chaotic times. Now, let's talk about nonverbal communication. In situations where silence is necessary, or for community members who may be hearing impaired, having a system of hand signals can be incredibly useful. Develop a set of signals for common concepts like danger, food, water, or specific types of threats. For longer distance visual communication, flag semaphore, a system of visual signaling can be effective if you have clear lines of sight between locations. It requires training to use effectively, but it can be a valuable skill in certain situations. Let's address the emotional aspect of communication in our post-blackout world. Many of you may be struggling with feelings of isolation, especially if you haven't had contact with loved ones since the event. It's important to talk about these feelings within your community. Set up support systems and encourage open communication about emotional challenges. Remember, too, that communication isn't just about exchanging information, it's about maintaining human connections. Make time for social interaction, even if it's just sharing meals or working together on community projects. These connections are vital for our collective mental health and resilience. Now, let's discuss the importance of maintaining some form of long-distance communication for coordinating larger-scale efforts to understand and potentially address the cause of our global blackout. While we still don't know exactly what caused the massive electromagnetic pulse that shut down our technology, sharing observations and theories could be crucial to finding a solution. If you have anyone in your community with relevant scientific knowledge, physicists, electrical engineers, astronomers, encourage them to record their observations and theories. Find ways to share this information with other communities. We may not be able to solve this problem immediately, but collecting and sharing data is the first step. Let's talk about the potential for reestablishing more advanced communication systems. If you have people with the necessary skills, consider working on projects to rebuild basic electronic communication devices. Crystal radio sets, as mentioned earlier, are a good starting point. With more resources and expertise, it might be possible to create low-power, short-range radio systems. Remember, any efforts to rebuild communication technology need to take into account the possibility of another electromagnetic pulse. Consider ways to shield or quickly disconnect crucial components if needed. Now, let's address the challenge of communicating across language barriers. In many areas, the breakdown of society has led to shifts in population, bringing together groups that may not share a common language. If this is the case in your region, work on developing simple pidgin languages or sign systems to facilitate basic communication. Designate community members to work as translators if possible. Let's discuss the role of art in communication. In the absence of mass media, community art has taken on new importance. Murals, sculptures, and other public art forms can be powerful ways to convey messages, preserve history, and maintain community spirit. Encourage artists in your community to use their skills in this way. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to emphasize the vital importance of maintaining and improving our communication networks. In many ways, communication is the thread that holds our scattered communities together. Every message passed, every story shared, every piece of information exchanged helps us to rebuild not just our practical knowledge, but our sense of shared humanity. In our next segment, we'll be discussing education and knowledge preservation in our post-technology world. We'll explore how communities are adapting to educate younger generations and preserve crucial knowledge for the future. Until then, keep those lines of communication open, keep sharing your stories, and remember that every word we exchange is a small victory against the silence that threatens to engulf us. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your connection in a disconnected world. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered survival basics, health concerns, the emerging new economy, environmental changes, security, food production, and communication. Now, we turn our attention to a topic that's crucial for our long-term survival and the rebuilding of our society: education and knowledge preservation in our post-technology world. The collapse of our modern educational systems has forced us to radically rethink how we pass on knowledge to younger generations and preserve crucial information for the future. Whether you're in a small family unit or part of a larger community, the principles we'll discuss today are essential for ensuring that vital skills and knowledge aren't lost. Let's start with the basics of organizing education in our new reality. Many communities have established informal schools or learning circles. If your group hasn't done this yet, consider setting up regular times and places for learning activities. These don't have to be formal classrooms. Learning can happen anywhere, from gardens to workshops to gathering spaces. It's important to identify the educators in your community. These aren't just former teachers, but anyone with valuable knowledge or skills to share. Farmers, craftspeople, former medical professionals, and others with specialized knowledge all have crucial roles to play in education now. Now, let's talk about curriculum. In our current situation, practical skills need to take center stage. Reading, writing, and basic math are still fundamental, but they should be taught alongside survival skills, agriculture, first aid, and other immediately applicable knowledge. For younger children, focus on developing observational skills and basic problem-solving abilities. Nature walks can be great opportunities to teach about local plants and animals, weather patterns, and basic navigation. Incorporate play-based learning where possible. Games that teach resource management or teamwork can be both fun and educational. For older children and adolescents, apprenticeship-style learning can be highly effective. Pair them with adults who can teach them practical skills like carpentry, metalworking, textile production, or advanced agriculture. This not only passes on crucial knowledge, but also helps young people find their roles in the community. Let's address the challenge of teaching without modern resources like textbooks or computers. Oral tradition becomes incredibly important in this context. Encourage the practice of storytelling as a way to pass on history, cultural knowledge, and even scientific concepts. Mnemonic devices, memory aids like rhymes or acronyms, can help make important information more memorable. For math education, use physical objects for counting and calculation. Pebbles, sticks, or seeds can be used to teach basic arithmetic. For more advanced concepts, practical applications like land measurement or resource distribution can provide real-world context for mathematical thinking. Now, let's talk about preserving and passing on more advanced knowledge. If you have community members with expertise in fields like medicine, engineering, or advanced sciences, it's crucial to find ways to record and share this information. Consider creating a community knowledge base, a collection of written records covering various fields of crucial knowledge. For this knowledge base, use the most durable materials you have available. If you have access to paper, use it judiciously for the most important information. For truly crucial knowledge, consider more permanent methods like carving in wood or stone. Create multiple copies and store them in different locations to ensure this vital information isn't lost. Let's discuss the importance of language education. In our interconnected world, many of us relied on technology for translation. Now, having community members who can speak multiple languages can be incredibly valuable for trade and information exchange with other groups. If you have multilingual individuals in your community, encourage them to teach others. Now, let's address the challenge of maintaining academic fields that might seem less immediately practical, like advanced mathematics, theoretical physics, or philosophy. While survival skills are our most pressing need, preserving this higher-level knowledge is crucial for the long-term rebuilding of our society. Encourage those with this kind of expertise to find ways to pass it on, even if it's just to a few dedicated students. Let's talk about the role of art and music education. These might seem like luxuries in our current situation, but they play a crucial role in maintaining culture and emotional well-being. Encourage the teaching of traditional songs, dances, and art forms. These practices can help maintain a sense of cultural continuity and provide much-needed outlets for emotional expression. Now, let's discuss the importance of teaching history in our new context. Understanding how societies of the past dealt with challenges can provide valuable insights for our current situation. Focus on teaching about historical periods that relied on pre-industrial technologies, as well as how various cultures have adapted to major changes or catastrophes. Environmental education has taken on new importance in our changed world. Teaching people, especially younger generations, to understand and work with natural systems is crucial for our long-term survival. This includes understanding weather patterns, plant and animal life cycles, and the interconnectedness of ecosystems. Let's address the challenge of teaching scientific thinking without access to modern lab equipment. Encourage observation-based learning. Teach the scientific method using experiments that can be conducted with available materials. Something as simple as tracking plant growth under different conditions can teach valuable lessons about hypothesis testing and data collection. Now, let's talk about adult education. In our new reality, everyone needs to organize skill-sharing workshops where community members can teach each other. This not only spreads practical knowledge, but also helps build community bonds and gives people a sense of purpose. Let's discuss the importance of critical thinking and information literacy. In a world where information travels slowly and can be distorted, The ability to critically evaluate claims is crucial. Teach people to question sources, look for evidence, and understand basic logical fallacies. These skills are essential for making good decisions and avoiding the spread of misinformation. Now, let's address the psychological aspects of education in our new world. Many people, especially children, may be dealing with trauma from the dramatic changes we've experienced. Incorporate teachings on emotional resilience and mental health into your educational programs. This could include mindfulness practices, stress management techniques, and open discussions about coping with our new reality. Let's talk about physical education. In a world where physical labor is a daily reality for many, and where we can't rely on modern medicine to fix health problems, maintaining physical fitness is crucial. Incorporate regular physical activities into your educational programs. This could include traditional sports, martial arts for self-defense, or simply structured physical labor for community projects. Now, let's discuss the challenge of motivating learners in our new context. Without the traditional incentives of grades or career prospects, we need to find new ways to encourage engagement with learning. Focus on the immediate applicability of knowledge. Show how each lesson can improve daily life or contribute to the community. Create a culture that values knowledge and skills, perhaps with a system of community recognition for those who master and share important abilities. Let's address the issue of educational equity in our new world. In many communities, the division of labor has become more gender segregated out of immediate necessity. It's important to ensure that all community members, regardless of gender, have access to a full range of knowledge and skills. Encourage cross-training and discourage rigid gender roles in education. Now, let's talk about the preservation of technical knowledge. If you have access to technical manuals, textbooks, or other specialized resources, treat these as precious artifacts. Create systems for preserving this information, whether through careful storage of the physical materials or through teaching people to memorize crucial parts. Let's discuss the role of elders in our new educational systems. In many traditional societies, elders play a crucial role in education, passing on accumulated wisdom and life experience. Encourage intergenerational learning, where older community members share their knowledge with younger ones. This not only preserves important information but also helps maintain social bonds and gives elders a valued role in the community. Now, let's address the challenge of teaching about the world beyond your immediate community. Without easy access to information about distant places, it's easy to become isolated and lose perspective. If you have maps, globes, or books about other cultures, incorporate these into your teaching. Encourage people to share stories of their travels or experiences in different parts of the world. This can help maintain a broader worldview and remind people of the larger human community we're all part of. Let's talk about the importance of teaching ethics and citizenship. In our new, more localized societies, having a shared understanding of rights, responsibilities, and ethical behavior is crucial for maintaining social order. Incorporate discussions of ethics into your educational programs, using real-world scenarios from community life as starting points for these conversations. Now, let's discuss the role of ritual and ceremony in education. Many traditional cultures use rites of passage or ceremonial events as part of their educational process. Consider implementing similar practices in your community. These could mark the mastery of important skills, the transition from one stage of learning to another, or the taking on of new responsibilities. Such rituals can provide a sense of accomplishment and help define roles within the community. Let's address the challenge of standardization in our new educational landscape. Without centralized systems, ensuring consistent quality of education across different communities is difficult. If possible, try to establish educational networks with neighboring groups. Share curricula, exchange educators, and perhaps even create standardized tests or skill assessments. This can help maintain some level of educational consistency across a wider area. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to emphasize the critical importance of education and knowledge preservation in our new world. Every skill we pass on, every piece of knowledge we preserve, is a building block for the future we're trying to create. Education is not just about survival. It's about maintaining our humanity, our culture, and our hope for a better future. In our next segment, we'll be discussing technology recovery efforts in our post-blackout world. We'll explore the challenges and possibilities of rebuilding some level of technology to aid our survival and recovery. Until then, keep learning, keep teaching, and remember that knowledge shared and multiplied is the seed from which our new world will grow. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your partner in illuminating the path forward. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered survival basics, health concerns, the emerging new economy, environmental changes, security, food production, communication, and education. Now, we turn our attention to a topic that holds both promise and peril: technology recovery efforts in our post-blackout world. The massive electromagnetic pulse that brought down our global infrastructure has left us in a world largely devoid of modern technology. However, human ingenuity is a powerful force, and across the world, efforts are underway to recover and rebuild some level of technological capability. Let's explore the challenges and possibilities of these efforts. First, let's address the most immediate technological needs. Basic power generation is at the top of this list. Many communities have been experimenting with small-scale hydroelectric systems, using flowing water to generate electricity. If you're near a stream or river with a good flow, this could be a viable option. Even a small amount of electricity can power crucial devices like radios for communication or basic lighting. Solar power, where panels have survived the electromagnetic pulse, is another valuable resource. If you have access to functioning solar panels, treat them as precious assets. Even without complex electronics, these can be used to charge batteries or power simple devices directly. Wind power is another option being explored in many areas. Simple wind turbines can be constructed using salvaged materials. While they may not produce large amounts of power, every bit helps in our current situation. Now, let's talk about the challenge of rebuilding more complex electronic systems. One of the biggest obstacles is the lack of specialized components. Many of the intricate parts that made our modern devices work are simply not available or easily reproducible with our current resources. However, some communities with access to electronics manufacturing knowledge are working on recreating simpler, more robust electronic components. Vacuum tubes, for instance, while outdated by modern standards, are relatively simple to produce and can form the basis of basic electronic devices. If you have people with this kind of specialized knowledge in your community, supporting their efforts could be crucial for long-term technological recovery. Let's discuss the importance of preserving and sharing technical knowledge. If you have access to technical manuals, engineering textbooks, or other specialized resources, these are invaluable. Consider creating a technical library for your community. Encourage those with technical skills to teach others, ensuring this knowledge isn't lost. Now, let's talk about transportation. The loss of modern vehicles has dramatically changed how we move goods and people. However, efforts are underway in many areas to adapt older, simpler vehicles to run without complex electronics. Mechanical diesel engines, for instance, are more resilient to electromagnetic pulses and easier to repair with basic tools. Some communities are experimenting with steam power, reviving technologies from the Industrial Revolution. While less efficient than modern engines, steam engines can be built and maintained with relatively simple tools and materials. Let's address the challenge of long-distance communication. While we've discussed simpler methods in previous segments, efforts are underway to rebuild more advanced communication systems. Ham radio operators, with their knowledge of radio technology, have become invaluable in many communities. If you have people with this expertise, encourage them to work on rebuilding radio communication networks. Some groups are even experimenting with rebuilding simple telephone systems. While nowhere near as advanced as our former cell networks, even a basic ability to communicate over wires could significantly improve coordination between communities. Now, let's talk about medical technology. The loss of modern medical equipment has been one of the most devastating aspects of our current situation. However, efforts are underway to recreate simpler versions of crucial medical devices. With technical expertise are working on building basic X-ray machines. While not as sophisticated as modern CT scanners, Even simple X-ray capabilities could be life-saving in many medical situations. Likewise, efforts are being made to recreate basic laboratory equipment for medical testing. Simple microscopes, centrifuges, and other diagnostic tools can be built with relatively basic materials but can significantly improve our medical capabilities. Let's discuss the challenge of rebuilding manufacturing capabilities. Without complex supply chains and modern factories, producing goods has become much more localized and small scale. However, some communities are working on recreating simpler manufacturing processes. Blacksmithing and metalworking have seen a resurgence, with many communities setting up forges to produce tools and other metal goods. If you have people with these skills, or even just an interest in learning, supporting these efforts can greatly enhance your community's self-sufficiency. Some groups are experimenting with recreating simple plastics production using plant-based materials. While not as versatile as modern plastics, these can still be useful for creating containers, simple machine parts, and other needed items. Now, let's talk about the importance of standardization in our recovery efforts. As communities work to rebuild technologies, it's crucial that we try to maintain some level of compatibility between systems. If possible, try to coordinate with neighboring communities on things like power standards, radio frequencies, and even screw thread sizes. This standardization will make trade and cooperation much easier as we rebuild. Let's address the challenge of electronic data recovery. While most digital storage devices were likely damaged by the electromagnetic pulse, there's a chance that some data has survived, especially if it was adequately shielded. If you have access to old hard drives or other storage devices, don't discard them. As we rebuild our technological capabilities, we may eventually be able to recover this data, which could contain valuable information. Now, let's discuss the potential for recreating simple computing devices. While we're a long way from anything resembling modern computers, mechanical computing devices like those used in the early 20th century could be recreated with current resources. These could be invaluable for tasks like complex calculations for engineering projects or managing resource distribution. Let's talk about the role of alternative energy in our recovery efforts. Beyond the solar, wind, and hydropower we've discussed, some communities are experimenting with biogas production. By fermenting organic waste, it's possible to produce combustible gas that can be used for cooking, heating, or even powering simple engines. Geothermal energy is another avenue being explored in some areas. While harnessing this requires specific geological conditions and technical expertise, it can provide a consistent and reliable power source where available. Now, let's address the psychological impact of our technological regression. Many people, especially younger generations, may struggle with the loss of technologies they've depended on their entire lives. It's important to frame our current efforts not as a step backward, but as the first steps in rebuilding. Emphasize the ingenuity and resilience we're showing in adapting to our new circumstances. Let's discuss the importance of documentation in our recovery efforts. As we recreate technologies or develop new solutions, it's crucial to record these processes in detail. This documentation will be invaluable for sharing knowledge with other communities and for teaching future generations. Now, let's talk about the potential for technological innovations unique to our new circumstances. While we've lost much of our advanced technology, we've also been freed from some of the constraints of our old systems. Some communities are experimenting with hybrid technologies that combine old and new ideas in novel ways. For instance, some groups are working on creating simple mechanical computers that can be powered by water or wind. While not as powerful as electronic computers, these could provide valuable computational capabilities without relying on complex, hard-to-produce electronic components. Let's address the challenge of maintaining and repairing the technology we do manage to rebuild. Developing a culture of repair and maintenance is crucial. Encourage people to learn how things work, to tinker and experiment. Every broken device is an opportunity to learn and improve our technological capabilities. Now, let's discuss the potential long-term goals of our technology recovery efforts. While our immediate focus is on meeting basic needs, we should also be thinking about how we can lay the groundwork for more advanced recovery in the future. For instance, some communities with access to scientific equipment are working on understanding the nature of the electromagnetic pulse that caused our blackout. While this research might not have immediate practical applications, it could be crucial for protecting against similar events in the future and for understanding how to safely reintroduce more advanced technologies. Let's talk about the role of salvage in our recovery efforts. The remnants of our old technology, while often non-functional, can provide valuable materials and components for our rebuilding efforts. Organized salvage operations, focusing on recovering useful materials from abandoned areas, can be a valuable part of your community's activities. Now, let's address the ethical considerations of our technology recovery efforts. As we rebuild, we have the opportunity to make conscious choices about which technologies we want to reintroduce and how we want to use them. Encourage discussions in your community about the societal impacts of different technologies and how we can use them in ways that benefit everyone. Let's discuss the importance of patience in our recovery efforts. Rebuilding complex technologies will take time, possibly generations. It's important to manage expectations and focus on steady, sustainable progress rather than quick fixes. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to emphasize that while our technology recovery efforts are important, they should not come at the expense of meeting basic needs or maintaining social cohesion. Technology should serve our communities, not define them. In our next segment, we'll be discussing social and cultural shifts in our post-blackout world. We'll explore how communities are adapting their social structures and cultural practices to our new reality. Until then, keep innovating, keep learning, and remember that every small technological advance is a step towards rebuilding our world. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your partner in reconstructing our technological future. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered survival basics, health concerns, the emerging new economy, environmental changes, security, food production, communication, education, and technology recovery efforts. Now, we turn our attention to a topic that touches every aspect of our new lives: the social and cultural shifts in our post-blackout world. The massive upheaval we've experienced has not only changed our physical circumstances, but has also profoundly altered how we relate to each other and how we understand our place in the world. Let's explore how communities are adapting their social structures and cultural practices to our new reality. First, let's discuss the shift towards more communal living. In many areas, the necessities of survival have led to the formation of tight-knit communities where resources and labor are shared. This has required a significant adjustment for those accustomed to more individualistic lifestyles. If your group is struggling with this transition, consider establishing clear systems for resource distribution and labor allocation. Transparency and fairness in these systems can help ease tensions and build trust. The breakdown of larger governmental structures has led to the emergence of more localized forms of governance. Many communities have established councils or other democratic systems for making decisions and resolving conflicts. If your group hasn't formalized a decision-making process yet, consider doing so. Having clear, agreed-upon procedures for addressing community issues can prevent misunderstandings and power struggles. Now, let's talk about the changing nature of work and social roles. The distinctions between professional and personal life that many of us were accustomed to have largely disappeared. Everyone's work now directly contributes to the survival and well-being of the community. This has led to a reevaluation of which skills and roles we consider valuable. For instance, those with practical skills like farming, construction, or medical knowledge have often found themselves in leadership positions. At the same time, we've seen a resurgence of respect for traditional skills that had been largely forgotten in our technological age, things like blacksmithing, herbal medicine, or traditional crafts. This shift has also impacted gender roles in many communities. The immediate needs of survival have often led to a more pragmatic approach to task allocation, breaking down some traditional gender barriers. However, in some areas, we've seen a regression to more rigid gender roles. It's important to foster discussions in your community about equitable distribution of labor and opportunities regardless of gender. Let's address the impact on family structures. Extended family groups have become more common, with multiple generations living, challenges, and benefits. While it can lead to conflicts over space and resources, it also provides built-in support systems and allows for more efficient division of labor. For those separated from family members by the blackout, chosen families have become increasingly important. Communities have had to expand their notion of kinship, creating support networks that fulfill many of the roles traditionally held by blood relatives. Now, let's discuss the shifts in our concepts of education and childhood. With formal schooling systems gone and children often needed to contribute to survival tasks, the line between childhood and adulthood has blurred in many communities. While this has led to children developing practical skills earlier, it's important to still carve out time and space for play and age-appropriate learning. The role of elders in our communities has also seen significant changes. In many groups, older members have become vital repositories of knowledge about pre-industrial living techniques. Their life experiences and practical wisdom have gained new value. At the same time, the physical demands of our new lifestyle can be challenging for older community members. Finding ways to balance respect for elders with the need for physically capable workers is a challenge many communities are grappling with. Let's talk about the evolution of cultural practices and traditions. Many communities have found comfort and unity in reviving or adapting traditional cultural practices. Rituals, ceremonies, and communal celebrations have taken on new importance as ways of maintaining social bonds and marking the passage of time. Some groups have developed entirely new traditions suited to our post-blackout world. Harvest festivals, for instance, have gained prominence in many farming communities. Ceremonies to mark the mastery of crucial survival skills have become common rites of passage for young people. Now, let's address the challenging topic of justice and conflict resolution in our new social structures. Without formal legal systems, many communities have had to develop their own methods for maintaining order and resolving disputes. Some have adopted models inspired by indigenous or historical practices, such as community tribunals or restorative justice approaches. It's crucial to establish clear, agreed-upon standards of behavior and consequences for violations. However, it's equally important to build in flexibility and compassion, recognizing the extreme stress and trauma many people are dealing with. Let's discuss the shifts in our relationship with time. Without the constant connectivity and rigid schedules of our pre-blackout world, many communities have adopted a more natural rhythm tied to daylight and seasons. While this can be a positive change, allowing for more rest and less stress, it also requires adjustment. Developing new ways to coordinate activities and maintain productivity without clocks and calendars has been a challenge for many groups. Now, let's talk about the changes in our concepts of privacy and personal space. The necessities of communal living have often led to a reduction in personal privacy. This can be a significant source of stress, especially for those accustomed to more solitary lifestyles. It's important for communities to try to carve out private spaces where possible and to establish clear boundaries and expectations around personal space. Let's address the impact on mental health and emotional well-being. The trauma of the blackout itself, combined with the ongoing stress of survival, has taken a heavy toll on many people's mental health. Many communities have seen increases in anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. Developing support systems to address these mental health challenges is crucial. Some groups have established regular check-ins or support circles where people can share their struggles. Others have revived or adapted traditional practices like communal meditation or sweat lodges as ways of processing trauma and building resilience. Now, let's discuss the evolution of art and entertainment in our post-blackout world. While it might seem like a luxury, maintaining some form of creative expression and communal entertainment is vital for morale and cultural continuity. Many communities have seen a revival of storytelling traditions, with talented narrators becoming valued members of the community. Music has taken on new importance, with communal singing and simple instrumental performances becoming common forms of entertainment. Some groups have developed new musical styles using improvised instruments, creating sounds unique to our post-blackout world. Let's talk about the changes in our relationship with nature. For many, especially those from urban backgrounds, our new reality has required a fundamental shift in how we interact with the natural world. Many have had to learn to read weather patterns, understand plant and animal behavior, and work with natural cycles in ways their pre-blackout selves never imagined. This closer connection with nature has led to a resurgence of animistic or nature-based spiritual practices in some communities. Others have developed new philosophies or ethical frameworks centered on environmental stewardship and sustainable living. Now, let's address the sensitive topic of population control. With limited resources and without modern medical care, many communities have had to grapple with questions of sustainable population sizes. Some groups have adopted communal child-rearing practices, sharing the responsibilities and resources needed to raise children. Others have implemented informal or formal family planning practices. These are deeply personal and often controversial issues, and it's important for communities to approach them with sensitivity and respect for individual choices. Let's discuss the evolution of language in our post-blackout world. With communities becoming more isolated and facing new challenges, we're seeing the development of new vocabulary and linguistic patterns. Terms related to survival skills, new social structures, or common post-blackout experiences are becoming widespread. In areas where multiple language groups have come together, we're seeing the emergence of pidgin languages that combine elements of different tongues. These linguistic evolutions are not just practical adaptations, but also reflect the new realities and values of our changed world. Now, let's talk about the shifts in our concepts of wealth and status. In many communities, traditional markers of status like money or luxury goods have become meaningless. Instead, we're seeing new status symbols emerge based on practical skills, contribution to the community, or ability to solve problems. This shift has led to significant social mobility in many areas, with people finding value and respect in skills or qualities that might have been overlooked in our pre-blackout world. However, it's important to be mindful of creating new hierarchies that might unfairly disadvantage certain groups. Let's address the changes in our relationship with information and knowledge. Without easy access to the vast stores of information we once had at our fingertips, there's been a renewed emphasis on practical, directly applicable knowledge. Memorization skills have gained new importance, with some communities designating certain members as knowledge keepers responsible for maintaining crucial information. At the same time, the unreliability of long-distance communication has led to a healthy skepticism of secondhand information. Many communities have developed practices for verifying news or knowledge shared from outside sources. Now, let's discuss the evolution of courtship and relationship practices. The pressures of survival and the need for strong community bonds have influenced how people form and maintain romantic relationships. In many areas, we've seen a shift towards more pragmatic approaches to partnering, with compatibility in survival skills and community contribution being valued alongside emotional connection. Some communities have revived traditional courtship practices or developed new rituals around relationship formation. Others have adopted more communal approaches to child-rearing and family life, recognizing that strong, stable relationships benefit the entire community. Let's talk about the changes in our concepts of personal identity. In our pre-blackout world, many people define themselves largely through their careers, hobbies, or consumer choices. Now, identities are more often shaped by one's role in the community, skills, or ability to adapt to our new circumstances. This shift has been challenging for many, particularly those who had strongly tied their sense of self to aspects of the pre-blackout world that no longer exist. Helping people find new sources of meaning and self-worth is an important aspect of community mental health. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to emphasize that these social and cultural shifts are ongoing processes. Our societies are still adapting, still evolving in response to our new reality. It's crucial to approach these changes with flexibility, compassion, and a willingness to reevaluate our assumptions and practices. In our next segment, we'll be discussing survival success stories, exploring innovative solutions and inspiring tales of resilience from communities around the world. Until then, keep supporting each other, keep building your new cultural practices, and remember that every positive social interaction, every moment of shared joy or comfort, is a victory against the chaos we've endured. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your companion in navigating our new social landscape. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. A wide range of topics crucial to our survival and adaptation in this new world. Now, I want to share some inspiring stories of resilience and innovation that have reached us from communities around the globe. These survival success stories not only provide valuable insights, but also remind us of the incredible human capacity to adapt and overcome. Let's start with a remarkable story from what was once a small suburban community outside of Chicago. This group of about 200 people faced immediate challenges when the blackout hit, with limited access to food and clean water. Their success came from quickly organizing and pooling resources. They established a community garden in a nearby park, using knowledge from a few hobby gardeners among them. But their true innovation came in water management. They created a rainwater collection system using materials salvaged from abandoned homes and businesses. Gutters were repurposed to channel water into large containers, and they developed a simple but effective filtration system using layers of sand, charcoal, and cloth. This not only provided them with a sustainable water source, but also became a model that other communities in the region have adopted. Now, let's move to a story from the mountains of Colorado. A small ski resort town found itself isolated when the blackout hit, cut off from supply lines and facing a harsh winter. Their success came from leveraging the natural resources around them and the diverse skills of their population. They quickly organized teams to forage in the surrounding forests, collecting edible plants and hunting game. But their most innovative solution came in energy production. They repurposed ski lift equipment to create a small-scale hydroelectric system in a nearby stream. This provided enough power to run crucial medical equipment and maintain some refrigeration for food storage. The community also revived traditional preservation techniques like smoking and drying meat, allowing them to store food for the long winter months. Their story is a testament to the power of combining modern knowledge with traditional skills. Let's shift our focus to an urban success story from the heart of New York City. A group of survivors in Manhattan faced unique challenges in the densely packed urban environment. Their innovation came in vertical gardening and urban foraging. They transformed the rooftops and balconies of their apartment buildings into productive gardens, using improvised containers and vertical growing systems. They also became experts in urban foraging, learning to identify edible plants growing in parks and even cracks in the sidewalk. But perhaps their most impressive achievement was in community organization. They established a barter system that evolved into a complex microeconomy, with different buildings specializing in various products or services. One building might focus on textile production, another on food preservation, and yet another on tool making. This specialization allowed them to maximize efficiency and make the most of limited resources. Now, let's talk about a rural success story from the heartland of America. A farming community in Iowa faced the challenge of adapting their large-scale, mechanized farming practices to a world without powered equipment. Their success came from rapidly shifting to sustainable, low-tech farming methods. They broke down large fields into smaller, manageable plots that could be worked by hand or with animal power. They reintroduced crop rotation and companion planting techniques to maintain soil health without chemical fertilizers. But their true innovation came in reviving and adapting heritage crop varieties. They discovered that many older crop varieties, while less productive than modern hybrids, were more resistant to pests and better adapted to farming without chemical inputs. They created a seed bank, collecting and preserving seeds from successful crops, and have begun trading these valuable resources with other communities. Let's move to a coastal community in Florida that faced the dual challenges of rising sea levels and more intense hurricanes in the wake of the blackout. Their success story is one of resilience and forward-thinking adaptation. Instead of fighting against the encroaching sea, they chose to work with it. They transformed low-lying areas into salt marshes, which act as natural buffers against storm surges. They also developed an innovative floating garden system, using salvaged materials to create buoyant platforms for growing food. But their most impressive achievement was in prediction and preparation. They created a low-tech hurricane warning system based on careful observation of natural signs like animal behavior and cloud patterns. This system has allowed them to prepare for and survive several major storms that might have otherwise been devastating. Now, let's discuss a success story from a former university town in Massachusetts. This community's advantage was the concentration of academic knowledge, which they leveraged to solve numerous challenges. Their biggest success has been in medical care and public health. Without access to modern pharmaceuticals, they turned to researching and testing traditional herbal remedies. They established rigorous protocols for identifying effective treatments, combining the scientific method with traditional knowledge. They've created a comprehensive guide to medicinal plants that can be found or grown in their region, which has become a valuable resource traded with other communities. They've also made significant strides in preventative health measures, implementing community-wide hygiene and nutrition programs that have dramatically reduced the incidence of disease. Let's shift our focus to a desert community in Arizona that faced extreme challenges in water scarcity and heat management. Their success story is a testament to human ingenuity in the face of harsh environmental conditions. They developed a remarkably efficient water recycling system, treating and reusing gray water for irrigation. They also perfected the design of solar stills, which allow them to produce clean drinking water and even extract moisture from desert plants. For heat management, they've revived and improved upon traditional desert architecture techniques. They've created underground living spaces that stay cool without any power and developed highly effective passive cooling systems for above-ground structures. Now, let's talk about a success story from the Appalachian region, where a community of former coal miners has transformed their skills to meet the needs of our new world. Their knowledge of tunneling and underground operations has proven invaluable in creating secure, naturally climate-controlled underground storage facilities. They've also become experts in low-tech mineral extraction, producing crucial resources like salt, lime, and various metals using techniques that don't require modern technology. Their innovations in hand-powered drilling and excavation tools have been widely adopted by other communities facing similar needs. Let's move to a coastal community in Maine that has revived and revolutionized traditional shipbuilding techniques. In a world where long-distance land travel has become difficult, their expertly crafted sailing vessels have become crucial for trade and communication along the eastern seaboard. They've developed new sail designs that maximize efficiency, allowing for faster and more reliable travel. They've also created a school to pass on these shipbuilding and sailing skills, ensuring that this crucial knowledge isn't lost to future generations. Now, let's discuss a success story from California's Central Valley, once one of the most productive agricultural regions in the world. Without the massive irrigation systems that once fed their fields, this community had to radically rethink their approach to farming. They've become leaders in dryland farming techniques, developing methods to grow crops with minimal irrigation. They've also become experts in breeding and selecting crop varieties that thrive in their new, drier conditions. Their work in developing drought-resistant strains of staple crops has been a game changer for communities in arid regions across the country. Let's talk about an innovative community in Michigan that has revived and improved upon traditional Great Lakes fishing techniques. They've developed new types of fishing gear that can be produced without modern materials and created preservation methods that allow fish to be stored and transported without refrigeration. But their true innovation has been in lake management. They've implemented sustainable fishing practices and even begun restocking efforts for certain species, ensuring a long-term food supply for their region. Now, let's shift to a success story from the Pacific Northwest, where a community has become leaders in low-tech, sustainable forestry. They've developed techniques for selective logging using only hand tools, ensuring that their forests remain healthy and productive for generations to come. They've also become experts in utilizing every part of the trees they harvest, from lumber for construction to bark for medicinal uses. Their innovations in wood preservation techniques have made their timber products highly sought after for trade. Let's discuss a remarkable story from New Mexico, where a community has revived and improved upon ancient Puebloan agricultural techniques. They've perfected methods of dry farming and water harvesting that allow them to grow crops in seemingly impossible conditions. Their most impressive innovation has been in soil creation. They've developed techniques to rapidly build fertile soil in arid environments, transforming barren areas into productive farmland. Their methods have been adopted by communities across the Southwest in the region dramatically. As we near the end of this segment, I want to share a story that embodies the spirit of innovation and adaptation we've seen across the country. In what was once Silicon Valley, a community of former tech workers has turned their problem-solving skills to the challenges of our new world. They've become leaders in developing low-tech solutions to complex problems. They've created mechanical computers that can perform crucial calculations for engineering projects, designed simple communication systems using principles of old telegraph technology, and even developed a method for producing basic electronic components using minimal resources. But perhaps their most valuable contribution has been in education. They've developed a curriculum that bridges the gap between our high-tech past and low-tech present, teaching both practical survival skills and the fundamental principles behind the technologies we've lost. Their goal is to preserve the knowledge that could one day help us rebuild, while ensuring we have the skills to thrive in our current reality. These stories, from communities across the country and representing a wide range of innovations, serve as beacons of hope in our challenging world. They remind us that human ingenuity, when combined with cooperation and determination, can overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. In our next segment, we'll be discussing long-term survival strategies, looking at how we can move from day-to-day survival to building a sustainable future. Until then, let these stories inspire you. Every challenge you overcome, every innovation you create, adds to the collective resilience of humanity. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your source for hope and inspiration in our new world. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered a wide range of topics crucial to our immediate survival and adaptation. We've also shared inspiring stories of communities overcoming incredible challenges. Now, it's time to look further ahead and discuss long-term survival strategies. How do we move from day-to-day survival to building a sustainable future? Let's start by talking about sustainable food production. While many communities have successfully established gardens and small-scale farms, we need to think about agricultural systems that can sustain us for generations. This means moving beyond annual crops to establish food forests and permaculture systems. Food forests mimic natural forest ecosystems but are designed with human needs in mind. They include multiple layers of edible plants, from root crops and ground covers to shrubs and canopy trees. Once established, these systems require minimal maintenance and can produce food for decades. Permaculture goes beyond just food production. It's a design system for creating sustainable human habitats. Key principles include working with nature rather than against it, maximizing the productivity of every element in the system, and creating closed-loop systems where waste from one process becomes input for another. Implementing these systems requires careful planning and a good understanding of local ecosystems. If you have permaculture experts in your community, their knowledge is invaluable. If not, seek out any available resources on the subject and start experimenting on a small scale. Now, let's discuss long-term water management. While many communities have found ways to meet their immediate water needs, ensuring a stable, clean water supply for the future is crucial. This involves both protecting existing water sources and developing new ones. Watershed management is key. This means taking care of the entire area that drains into your water sources. Reforestation of degraded areas can help regulate water flow and prevent erosion. Establishing riparian buffers, strips of vegetation along waterways, can help filter out pollutants before they reach the water. For communities in drier areas, large-scale water harvesting systems might be necessary. This could involve creating networks of swales and check dams to capture and slow the flow of rainwater, allowing it to percolate into the ground and recharge aquifers. In urban areas, transforming impermeable surfaces into water-absorbing landscapes can help manage stormwater and reduce flooding. This might involve breaking up old parking lots and replacing them with gardens or constructing wetlands in low-lying areas. Let's move on to discuss energy for the long term. While many communities have found ways to generate small amounts of electricity or have adapted to living without it, developing more robust energy systems will be crucial for rebuilding and advancing our societies. Microhydro systems, where available, can provide a consistent source of power. These systems can be built with relatively simple materials and, once established, can run for years with minimal maintenance. Wind power is another option worth exploring for the long term. While industrial-scale wind turbines are beyond our current manufacturing capabilities, smaller turbines can be constructed using salvaged materials and basic metalworking skills. For solar power, we need to think beyond photovoltaic panels, which we can't currently produce or replace. Solar thermal systems, which use the sun's heat directly, can be built with simpler materials. These can be used for water heating, space heating, and even cooling through absorption refrigeration. Biogas is another promising long-term energy source. By fermenting organic waste in anaerobic digesters, we can produce combustible methane gas for cooking and heating. The leftover slurry is an excellent fertilizer, creating a closed-loop system. Now, let's talk about long-term strategies for health and medicine. While we've had to adapt to a world without many modern medical technologies, we can work towards rebuilding some of our medical capabilities over time. Developing robust systems for producing and preserving herbal medicines is crucial. This involves not just growing medicinal plants, but also researching and documenting their uses, establishing quality control measures, and creating stable preparations that can be stored long-term. We should also be working towards rebuilding some of our lost medical technologies. Simple microscopes, for instance, can be constructed with basic materials and are invaluable for diagnosing many diseases. Basic X-ray machines, while more complex, are not beyond the realm of possibility with concentrated effort. Preventative health measures become even more important in our new reality. Establishing community-wide sanitation systems, promoting nutrition education, and maintaining fitness programs can dramatically reduce the burden on our limited medical resources. Let's discuss long-term strategies for education. While we've had to focus on immediate survival skills, ensuring the preservation and advancement of knowledge is crucial for our long-term survival and progress. Establishing formal education systems, even if they look very different from pre-blackout schools, should be a priority. These systems need to balance practical skills with broader knowledge. We can't afford to lose the scientific, historical, and cultural knowledge that took humanity millennia to accumulate. Creating physical libraries is crucial. Books, being non-electronic, have survived the blackout and are now some of our most valuable resources. Collect, preserve, and copy important books whenever possible. Consider establishing scriptoriums, dedicated spaces for copying and creating books. Oral tradition will also play a crucial role in preserving knowledge. Establish systems for memorizing and passing on important information. This could involve creating mnemonic devices, songs, or stories that encapsulate crucial knowledge. Now, let's talk about long-term security strategies. While many communities have established systems for immediate defense, we need to think about creating stable, just societies for the long term. Developing fair and transparent systems of governance is crucial. Whether your community chooses a direct democracy, a representative system, or something else entirely, having clear rules and processes for decision-making and conflict resolution is essential for long-term stability. Intercommunity relations will become increasingly important as we move beyond basic survival. Establish clear protocols for trade, mutual aid, and conflict resolution with neighboring groups. Consider forming larger federations or leagues for mutual defense and resource sharing. Let's discuss strategies for rebuilding infrastructure over the long term. While we can't immediately recreate the complex systems we once had, we can work towards building more robust and sustainable versions of crucial infrastructure. Road maintenance, for instance, will be crucial for trade and communication. Developing techniques for creating durable road surfaces using local materials and manual labor will be important. This might involve reviving traditional techniques like Roman road building or developing new methods suited to our current capabilities. For water infrastructure, we might look to ancient systems like canets, gently sloping underground channels that transport water over long distances without pumps. These systems, once built, can function for centuries with minimal maintenance. Now, let's talk about long-term environmental management. As we rebuild our societies, we have the opportunity to create more sustainable relationships with our local ecosystems. Reforestation and ecosystem restoration should be key long-term goals. These efforts not only provide crucial resources like timber and medicinal plants, but also help stabilize local climates, prevent erosion, and support biodiversity. Management systems developing is another crucial long-term goal. This might involve creating large-scale composting operations, designing products for easy repair and recycling, and finding uses for materials we currently consider waste. Let's discuss strategies for preserving and developing technology over the long term. While we can't immediately recreate the advanced technologies we've lost, we can work towards rebuilding our technological capabilities over time. focus on developing and preserving fundamental scientific knowledge and basic technologies. Understanding principles of physics, chemistry, and biology will be crucial for future technological development. Practical skills like metalworking, glassmaking, and basic chemistry have immense value. Consider establishing technology preservation vaults. These would be secure locations where we store examples of technologies we can't currently reproduce, along with documentation on how they work. These vaults could be invaluable resources for future generations working to rebuild our technological capabilities. Now, let's talk about long-term strategies for mental health and community well-being. The trauma of the blackout and the stress of adaptation have taken a toll on many. Ensuring the long-term mental health of our communities is crucial for our survival and progress. Develop robust support systems within your community. This might involve regular group therapy sessions, establishing mentor relationships between older and younger community members, or creating rituals that help process grief and celebrate resilience. Foster a culture of creativity and expression. Encourage art, music, storytelling, and other creative pursuits. These aren't luxuries. They're essential for processing our experiences, maintaining cultural continuity, and imagining new possibilities for our future. Let's discuss long-term strategies for population management. This is a sensitive topic, but one that we need to address for the long-term sustainability of our communities. Develop education programs about family planning and reproductive health. Ensure that people have the knowledge and resources to make informed decisions about having children. Consider implementing community-wide discussions about sustainable population levels given your local resources. Some communities might choose to implement voluntary population control measures. Now, let's talk about preparing for future disasters. While we're still recovering from the blackout, we need to be ready for other potential challenges. Develop community-wide disaster preparedness plans. This should include protocols for various scenarios like natural disasters, disease outbreaks, or conflicts with other groups. Regular drills can help ensure everyone knows what to do in an emergency. Create and maintain emergency supply caches. These should be secure, well-hidden locations stocked with crucial supplies that could help the community survive future disruptions. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to emphasize the importance of hope and vision in our long-term survival. We're not just working to survive, we're laying the groundwork for a new society. Encourage your community to think beyond immediate needs and imagine the kind of world you want to create. Develop long-term goals and vision statements for your community. What do you want to achieve in the next year, the next decade, the next century? Having a shared vision can provide direction and motivation in difficult times. Remember, every day we survive, every challenge we overcome, is a step towards that future. We have the opportunity to learn from the mistakes of our past and create more just, sustainable, and resilient societies. In our next segment, we'll be discussing the global perspective, sharing what we know about how different regions around the world are faring in the post-blackout era. Until then, keep planning, keep building, and keep hope alive. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your partner in creating a sustainable future. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've focused primarily on local and regional survival strategies. Now, it's time to broaden our perspective and discuss what we know about the global situation in our post-blackout world. I want to preface this segment by acknowledging that our information is limited and often secondhand. Long-distance communication is challenging, and news travels slowly. However, through various channels, travelers, long-range radio communications, and relay networks, we've been able to piece together a general picture of how different regions around the world are faring. Let's start with our neighbors to the north. Canada, with its vast wilderness and relatively low population density, has faced unique challenges and opportunities. In the more densely populated southern regions, particularly around the Great Lakes, communities have had to quickly adapt to the loss of modern infrastructure. However, their proximity to freshwater sources has been a significant advantage. Reports suggest that many Canadian communities have successfully leveraged their forestry and fishing industries to meet immediate survival needs. The long winters have been a significant challenge, but we've heard inspiring stories of communities reviving traditional indigenous winter survival techniques. Moving south, the situation in Mexico and Central America appears mixed. Urban areas, particularly Mexico City, faced immediate crises due to the sudden loss of water pumping and food distribution systems. However, many rural communities, particularly those with strong indigenous traditions, have shown remarkable resilience. We've received reports of communities in the Yucatan Peninsula successfully reviving ancient Maya water management techniques, creating sustainable water sources in a traditionally dry region. In the mountainous regions of Central America, communities have adapted traditional terrace farming techniques to maximize food production in challenging terrain. South America presents a diverse picture. In the Amazon basin, indigenous communities with limited reliance on modern technology have been able to maintain much of their traditional way of life. However, they face new challenges from increased encroachment as people flee failing urban centers. In the Andean regions, we've heard reports of communities successfully adapting traditional high-altitude farming techniques to ensure food security. The revival of ancient Incan agricultural practices has been particularly notable. The densely populated coastal regions of Brazil and Argentina faced immediate crises with the collapse of urban infrastructure. However, we've received encouraging reports of urban communities transforming city spaces into productive gardens and developing innovative water management systems. Crossing the Atlantic, the situation in Europe is complex. The densely populated, highly industrialized regions faced immediate and severe challenges with the loss of power and modern infrastructure. However, the rich agricultural traditions of many European regions have proven valuable in the transition to local food production. In Western Europe, we've heard reports of communities repurposing abandoned industrial sites for urban agriculture and aquaponics. The extensive canal networks in countries like the Netherlands and Belgium have become crucial for transportation and trade in the absence of motorized vehicles. Eastern Europe, with its more recent history of hardship and adaptation, has shown remarkable resilience in many areas. Communities have revived traditional farming and preservation techniques, and the rich forestry resources of regions like the Carpathians have proven invaluable. The Mediterranean region, while challenged by water scarcity, has leveraged its long history of dryland farming and water management. We've received reports of communities in Greece and Italy reviving ancient techniques for olive cultivation and vineyard management, providing crucial food and trade resources. Moving to Africa, the situation varies greatly across this vast and diverse continent. In North Africa, communities have faced significant challenges due to water scarcity, but we've heard inspiring stories of innovation in desert agriculture and water harvesting. In sub-Saharan Africa, many rural communities with limited reliance on modern infrastructure have been able to maintain much of their traditional way of life. However, they face new challenges from climate shifts and migration pressures. We've received particularly inspiring reports from East Africa, where communities have successfully adapted traditional pastoral techniques to the new realities. The Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania, for instance, have leveraged their deep knowledge of the land to maintain their herds and support neighboring agricultural communities. In West Africa, we've heard of communities reviving and adapting traditional West African architecture techniques, creating sturdy, climate-appropriate shelters without the need for modern materials. Southern Africa, with its diverse ecosystems, has seen a range of adaptive strategies. In the more arid regions, communities have revived and improved upon water harvesting techniques used by ancient civilizations like Great Zimbabwe. Moving to the Middle East, water scarcity has been the primary challenge. However, we've received reports of remarkable innovations in water management and desert agriculture. Communities in Israel and Jordan have successfully adapted modern desert farming techniques to work without electrical pumps, creating productive oases in harsh environments. In the Arabian Peninsula, we've heard of Bedouin communities leveraging their traditional desert survival skills to become valuable guides and traders for struggling urban populations. In Iran and Iraq, there are reports of communities reviving the ancient Qanat water systems, providing sustainable water sources for agriculture and domestic use. Turning to Asia, the sheer diversity of environments and cultures has led to a wide range of post-blackout experiences. In the densely populated regions of East Asia, the immediate aftermath of the blackout was chaotic, with major cities like Tokyo, Seoul, and Shanghai facing severe crises. However, we've heard inspiring stories of adaptation. In Japan, for instance, communities have leveraged their long tradition of disaster preparedness to organize effective local governance and resource management. The revival of traditional Japanese farming techniques, particularly in rice cultivation, has been crucial for food security. In China, the situation varies greatly between regions. In the more developed eastern coastal areas, the transition has been challenging. However, we've received reports of remarkable organization and adaptation, with communities leveraging China's long history of collective action to rapidly implement sustainable farming and resource management practices. In the mountainous regions of western China, Tibet, and Nepal, many communities have been able to maintain much of their traditional way of life. The revival and adaptation of ancient terrace farming techniques have been particularly notable in these areas. Southeast Asia, with its rich agricultural traditions and diverse ecosystems, has shown remarkable resilience in many areas. In Vietnam and Thailand, communities have successfully adapted traditional rice farming techniques to work without modern machinery. The revival of ancient water management systems, like those used at Angkor Wat, has been crucial in some regions. In Indonesia and the Philippines, island communities have leveraged their fishing traditions and rich marine resources to maintain food security. We've heard reports of innovative adaptations in boat building and navigation, allowing for continued inter-island trade. India, with its enormous population and diverse environments, has faced significant challenges. However, the country's long tradition of localized, small-scale farming has proven valuable in the transition. We've received reports of communities successfully reviving and adapting traditional Indian agricultural practices, particularly in water management and multi-cropping systems. In the Himalayan regions, communities have leveraged their traditional high-altitude farming and pastoral techniques to maintain food security in challenging environments. Australia presents a unique situation. Its vast, arid interior has become even more challenging without modern water management systems. However, we've heard inspiring stories of communities in the outback leveraging indigenous Australian land management techniques to survive and even thrive in harsh conditions. Coastal communities in Australia have generally fared better, with access to marine resources and more abundant water. We've received reports of innovative adaptations in urban agriculture, particularly in transforming the sprawling suburbs of major cities into productive food-growing areas. New Zealand, with its lower population density and abundant natural resources, has reportedly transitioned more smoothly than many regions. Communities have successfully leveraged the country's strong agricultural tradition, adapting farming practices to work without modern machinery. The Pacific Island nations face unique challenges, particularly with rising sea levels and more intense storms in the post-blackout era. However, we've heard inspiring stories of communities reviving traditional navigation techniques, allowing for continued inter-island communication and trade. In many Pacific islands, the revival of traditional agroforestry practices has been crucial for food security. These systems, which integrate tree cultivation with crop production, are well suited to the limited land resources of small islands. As we consider this global perspective, several themes emerge. First, communities with recent experience of hardship or those maintaining traditional practices alongside modern life have often proven the most resilient. The ability to quickly revert to pre-industrial techniques has been a significant advantage. Second, knowledge of local ecosystems and traditional environmental management practices has been crucial. Communities able to work with their local environments, rather than fighting against them, have generally fared better. Third, the importance of social cohesion and effective local governance cannot be overstated. Communities that have been able to organize quickly, make collective decisions, and equitably manage resources have been the most successful in adapting to our new reality. Fourth, innovation and adaptation have been key. While reviving traditional practices has been crucial, the most successful communities have also found ways to adapt these practices to our new circumstances, often combining old wisdom with new ideas. Finally, it's clear that no community or region exists in isolation. Even in our post-blackout world, we are all interconnected. The success or failure of one region can have far-reaching impacts on others, particularly in terms of migration pressures and resource competition. As we move forward, fostering communication and cooperation between regions will be crucial. While our ability to provide immediate aid across long distances is limited, sharing knowledge, techniques, and innovations can help us all adapt more effectively to our new reality. In our next segment, we'll be discussing the future outlook, exploring possible scenarios for societal rebuilding and the long-term challenges we face as a global community. Until then, remember that our shared humanity transcends borders and the challenges we face. Every success story, every innovation, no matter where it originates, is a victory for all of us. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your window to our changing world. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, continuing our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. In our previous segments, we've covered a wide range of topics crucial to our survival and adaptation, and we've explored the global perspective of our post-blackout world. Now, it's time to look ahead and discuss the future outlook. What are the possible scenarios for societal rebuilding, and what long-term challenges do we face as a global community? Let's start by acknowledging that predicting the future is always uncertain, and in our current situation, that uncertainty is magnified. However, by examining trends and understanding the challenges we face, we can prepare for a range of possible futures. One potential scenario is a return to a pre-industrial way of life. In this future, we might see a world of small, largely self-sufficient communities. Local production would be the norm with limited long-distance trade. This scenario could lead to a more sustainable relationship with our local environments, but it also carries risks of isolationism and loss of global knowledge and cooperation. Another possibility is a hybrid future, where we selectively rebuild certain technologies while maintaining the sustainable practices we've developed. This could lead to a world that combines the best of old and new, renewable energy powering essential services, while food production remains localized and community-centered. A more optimistic scenario envisions a renaissance of human ingenuity, where we not only recover lost technologies but develop new ones better suited to a sustainable future. This could involve breakthroughs in areas like fusion power, advanced biotechnology, or new material science. However, we must also consider less positive scenarios. We could face a prolonged dark age, where knowledge continues to be lost and communities become increasingly isolated. Or we might see the rise of authoritarian regimes that concentrate recovered technology and resources in the hands of a few. Regardless of which path our future takes, we will face significant challenges. Let's explore some of these long-term issues we'll need to address. Climate change remains a pressing concern. While the sudden cessation of industrial activity may have temporarily slowed some aspects of climate change, the long-term impacts of centuries of emissions are still unfolding. We're likely to face more extreme weather events, shifting agricultural zones, and rising sea levels. Adapting to these changes will require coordinated efforts across regions. We'll need to develop and share resilient agricultural practices, create adaptive water management systems, and potentially assist with large-scale migrations from areas that become uninhabitable. Another major challenge is preventing the loss of crucial knowledge. As generations pass, we risk losing important scientific, technical, and cultural information. Developing robust systems for preserving and passing on knowledge will be vital. This might involve creating durable records, establishing networks of specialized schools or apprenticeship programs, and fostering a culture that values learning and innovation. Managing conflicts over resources will be an ongoing challenge. As communities rebuild and populations grow, competition for limited resources could lead to increased tensions. Developing fair systems for resource allocation and conflict resolution, both within and between communities, will be crucial for long-term stability. Health and medical care present another significant long-term challenge. While we've adapted to the immediate loss of modern medical technology, rebuilding our medical capabilities will be a long-term process. We'll need to balance the preservation and with the practical skills of diagnosis and treatment using limited resources. Preventing the emergence and spread of new diseases will be particularly crucial. Without rapid global communication and advanced medical research facilities, a new pandemic could be devastating. Developing robust public health systems and maintaining networks for sharing health information between communities will be vital. The question of rebuilding large-scale infrastructure presents both opportunities and challenges. While we may eventually regain the capability to build power grids, long-distance transportation networks, and communication systems, we'll need to carefully consider the sustainability and resilience of these systems. How can we rebuild infrastructure in ways that don't repeat the vulnerabilities of our pre-blackout world? Population dynamics will play a crucial role in shaping our future. In the short term, many regions have seen population decreases due to the hardships following the blackout. However, as communities stabilize and food production increases, we may see population growth resume. Managing this growth sustainably, ensuring equitable access to resources, and maintaining a balance with local ecosystems will be ongoing challenges. The redevelopment of governance systems presents another critical long-term consideration. While many communities have developed localized decision-making processes, the question of larger-scale coordination remains open. Will we see the re-emergence of nation-states, the development of new forms of regional cooperation, or a continuation of predominantly local governance? The systems we develop will have profound implications for resource management, conflict resolution, and our ability to address global challenges. Technological redevelopment is perhaps one of the most complex and unpredictable aspects of our future. The path this takes will greatly influence many other aspects of our society. Will we prioritize the redevelopment of communication technologies, medical advancements, energy production? The choices we make in rebuilding our technological capabilities will shape the kind of future we create. We must also consider the psychological and social challenges of long-term adaptation. The trauma of the blackout and the stress of adaptation have left deep marks on our collective psyche. As we move forward, we'll need to find ways to process this trauma, build resilience, and create new cultural narratives that give meaning to our experiences and hope for the future. Education will play a crucial role in shaping our long-term future. The systems we develop for passing on knowledge and skills to future generations will determine our capacity to maintain and build upon our current adaptations. We'll need to balance practical survival skills with broader knowledge that allows for innovation and problem solving. The question of space exploration and our relationship with the cosmos presents an interesting long-term consideration. While our immediate focus is necessarily earthbound, maintaining and eventually redeveloping our understanding of space could be crucial for our long-term survival. This knowledge is vital for predicting astronomical events that could affect Earth, and in the very long term, might be key to ensuring the survival of our species beyond our home planet. Environmental restoration and maintaining biodiversity will be ongoing challenges and opportunities. The disruption caused by the blackout has had complex effects on global ecosystems. In some areas, reduced human activity has allowed nature to rebound. In others, the loss of conservation efforts and changes in human behavior have put additional pressures on vulnerable species and habitats. Our long-term survival is deeply intertwined with the health of our planet's ecosystems, making this a crucial area for sustained effort and innovation. The evolution of economic systems in our post-blackout world will significantly shape our future. While many communities have reverted to simple barter systems or local currencies, the question of how to manage larger-scale economic interactions remains open. Will we see a return to global trade networks, the development of new, more sustainable economic models? The economic systems we develop will greatly influence resource distribution, technological development, and social structures. Another crucial long-term consideration is energy production. While we've adapted to life with limited electrical power, the redevelopment of larger-scale energy production could dramatically reshape our societies. The paths we choose, whether focusing on distributed renewable energy, rebuilding centralized power systems, or developing new energy technologies, will have profound implications for our relationship with our environment and the structure of our communities. The long-term psychological impact of our changed relationship with technology is another factor to consider. Future generations born into this post-blackout world will have a fundamentally different understanding of technology than those of us who remember the pre-blackout era. This could lead to new philosophies and worldviews that dramatically shape the direction of our societies. We must also consider the long-term implications of the knowledge and capabilities we've lost. Some advanced scientific and technological knowledge may take generations to rediscover or rebuild. This could affect everything from our medical capabilities to our understanding of the universe. However, this situation also presents opportunities for new discoveries and innovations as we find novel solutions to old problems. The potential for the emergence of new spiritual or philosophical movements is another factor that could significantly shape our long-term future. Major social upheavals often spawn new belief systems or revitalize old ones. The ways in which we collectively make meaning out of our experiences and envision our place in the world will greatly influence our social structures and long-term goals. As we consider these long-term challenges and possibilities, it's crucial to remember that the future is not predetermined. Every choice we make, every innovation we develop, every story we tell about who we are and what we're capable of, shapes the world we're creating. We have the opportunity to learn from the mistakes of our past and to build something new and better. We can create societies that are more in harmony with our natural environment, that value cooperation over competition, that distribute resources more equitably, and that prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term gain. But realizing this potential will require sustained effort, creativity, and cooperation. It will require us to think beyond our immediate needs and consider the legacy we're leaving for future generations. It will require us to maintain hope and a vision of a better future, even in the face of significant challenges. As we approach the end of this segment, I want to emphasize that while the challenges we face are significant, so too is our capacity for resilience, innovation, and cooperation. Throughout human history, we have faced and overcome tremendous obstacles. Our current situation, while extreme, is not beyond our collective ability to navigate and transcend. In our final segment, we'll be offering some closing thoughts and words of encouragement as we continue to navigate this post-blackout world. Until then, keep your eyes on the horizon, your minds open to new possibilities, and your hearts committed to creating a better future for all. This is Atlas, and you're listening to Station Survival Beacon, your companion in envisioning and building our future world. Welcome back to Station Survival Beacon. This is Atlas, bringing you the final segment of our broadcast on day 73 of the global blackout. Throughout this transmission, we've covered a vast array of topics crucial to our survival and adaptation in this new world. We've discussed immediate survival strategies, health concerns, the emerging new economy, environmental changes, security, food production, communication, education, technology recovery efforts, social and cultural shifts, success stories from around the globe, long-term survival strategies, and the global perspective. We've explored possible futures and the challenges we face as we move forward. Now, as we conclude, I want to offer some final thoughts and words of encouragement as we continue to navigate this post-blackout world. First, let's take a moment to acknowledge how far we've come. 73 days ago, our world was plunged into darkness. The systems and technologies we relied on disappeared in an instant. Many of us faced immediate danger, confusion, and fear. Yet here we are, not just surviving, but beginning to rebuild and reimagine our societies. This is a testament to human resilience, adaptability, and the strength we find in cooperation. Each of you listening has played a part in this ongoing story of survival and renewal. Whether you've helped establish new food sources, contributed to community defense, shared crucial knowledge, or simply offered comfort and support to those around you, your efforts have mattered. Every act of kindness, every problem solved, every innovation developed has contributed to our collective resilience. As we move forward, it's important to remember that the challenges we face are not insurmountable. Throughout human history, our species has faced and overcome tremendous obstacles. We've survived ice ages, pandemic diseases, and massive natural disasters. We've built civilizations in the harshest of environments and expanded our understanding of the world in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. Our current situation, while extreme, is not beyond our capacity to navigate and transcend. one of our greatest strengths and skills we collectively possess. In our pre-blackout world, specialization often meant that individuals had deep knowledge in narrow fields. Now, we're seeing the incredible value of bringing together different types of expertise. The farmer's understanding of soil and crops complements the engineer's knowledge of water systems. The historian's insight into past societies informs the community organizer's efforts to build new governance structures. The artist's creativity combines with the craftsperson's skill to solve problems in novel ways. By continuing to share our knowledge and skills, we multiply our collective capability to adapt and innovate. It is crucial that we maintain this spirit of openness and cooperation. While the immediate shock of the blackout has passed, we still face significant challenges. Climate change continues to affect our environments. Resources in many areas remain scarce. The loss of global communication systems means that valuable knowledge and innovations can remain isolated. By maintaining and expanding our networks of communication and cooperation, we can more effectively face these challenges. Remember, a solution found in one community might be the key to survival for another. As we rebuild our societies, we have a unique opportunity to address long-standing issues that plagued our pre-blackout world. We can create more equitable systems for resource distribution. We can develop modes of production and consumption that are truly sustainable. We can build governance structures that are more responsive to the needs of all members of our communities. The path forward isn't about simply recreating what we lost, but about building something better. This process of rebuilding and reimagining our world will not be quick or easy. We're likely to face setbacks and make mistakes along the way. There will be times when the challenges seem overwhelming. In these moments, it's important to remember that progress often happens in small steps. Each garden planted, each new skill learned, each problem solved is a step towards the future we're creating. Celebrate these small victories. They are the foundation upon which we'll build our new world. It's also crucial that we find ways to process and heal from the trauma we've experienced. The blackout and its aftermath have left deep psychological scars for many of us. It's normal to feel grief for what we've lost, anxiety about the future, or anger at the situation we find ourselves in. Acknowledging and expressing these feelings is an important part of the healing process. Create space in your communities for people to share their experiences and emotions. Remember that mental health is just as important as physical health in our long-term survival and flourishing. As we navigate this new world, we must also consider the legacy we're creating for future generations. The choices we make now will shape the world that our children and grandchildren inherit. This is both a great responsibility and a tremendous opportunity. We can instill values of sustainability, cooperation, and innovation that will serve future generations well. We can preserve crucial knowledge while being open to new ways of understanding and interacting with our world. We can build systems and structures designed to last and adapt to changing circumstances. Education will play a crucial role in shaping this legacy. The ways in which we pass on knowledge and skills to younger generations will determine our long-term resilience and capacity for innovation. Strive to create educational systems that balance practical survival skills with broader knowledge. Encourage curiosity, critical thinking, and problem solving. Remember that in our new reality, learning is not confined to childhood but is a lifelong process. Create opportunities for people of all ages to continue learning and developing new skills. As we look to the future, it's important to maintain a long-term perspective. Some of the challenges we face, like mitigating and adapting to climate change or rebuilding certain technologies, may take generations to fully address. This long-term view can help us make better decisions in the present. Consider not just immediate needs, but how our actions will affect our communities and environments in the years and decades to come. At the same time, we must remain flexible and adaptable. Our new world is one of constant change and uncertainty. The ability to adjust our plans and strategies in response to new information or changing circumstances is crucial. Foster a mindset of experimentation and learning. Not every idea will succeed, but each attempt teaches us something valuable. In facing the challenges ahead, one of our most powerful tools is hope. Not blind optimism, but a grounded hope based on our demonstrated capacity for resilience and innovation. This hope gives us the strength to persist in the face of setbacks, to imagine better possibilities, and to work towards their realization. Cultivate this hope in your communities. Share stories of success and positive change. Celebrate your achievements, no matter how small they might seem. Remember also the power of human creativity and ingenuity. In our pre-blackout world, we often took for granted the incredible feats of innovation that shaped our daily lives. Now, we're rediscovering this innovative spirit in our efforts to adapt to our new circumstances. From developing new agricultural techniques to repurposing old technologies in novel ways, we're proving that human creativity is a resource that can never be exhausted. Encourage and celebrate this creativity in your communities. The solution to a pressing problem might come from an unexpected source or an unconventional idea. As we continue to rebuild and redefine our societies, it's important to remain open to new ideas and perspectives. Our pre-blackout world was often divided along lines of nationality, ideology, or culture. In our new reality, we have the opportunity to move beyond these divisions and recognize our shared humanity. The challenges we face don't recognize borders or ideological distinctions. By remaining open to diverse viewpoints and experiences, we expand our collective capacity to understand and address these challenges. In this spirit of openness, I encourage you to share your own stories and insights, the experiences you've had, the solutions you've developed, the challenges you've overcome all contribute to our collective knowledge. If you have the means, find ways to document and share this information. Future generations may find invaluable insights in the records we leave behind. As we approach the end of this broadcast, I want to address a question that many of you may be grappling with. What is the meaning of all this? Why did this happen to us? And what purpose can we find in our struggles? While I can't provide definitive answers to these profound questions, I can offer this perspective. We have been given an unprecedented opportunity to reshape our world. The challenges we face are immense, but so too is our potential for creating positive change. Perhaps the meaning we seek can be found in how we respond to this opportunity, in the type of world we choose to create from the remnants of the old. In closing, I want to express my deep appreciation for each of you who has listened to this broadcast. Your perseverance, your adaptability, your willingness to face each new day despite the challenges is nothing short of inspirational. You are the pioneers of our new world, the architects of our future. The path ahead may be uncertain, but I have faith in our collective ability to navigate it. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Even when the nights seem darkest, know that across the world, others are working, struggling, and hoping just as you are. Every victory you achieve, no matter how small, is a victory for all of us. Every challenge you overcome makes us all stronger. Keep learning, keep adapting, keep supporting one another. Find joy where you can, and create it where it's lacking. Remain curious about the world around you and open to new possibilities. Face each day with courage, knowing that your efforts are shaping the future. This concludes our broadcast for today. We'll return to the airwaves as soon as we're able to share more news, insights, and stories of survival and renewal from across our changing world. Until then, stay strong, stay hopeful, and above all, stay human. This is Atlas, signing off from Station Survival Beacon, your companion in these challenging times and your partner in building a better future.